Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk, straight from their jocks about the jocks. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee. Alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCavita.
What's going on, Nodos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know. Let's go. Locked and loaded, ready to go. Week 18's over. Guess what? That means playoffs are here. Woo. A lot of surprises this past week. Let me tell you, as far as picking goes, wow. Was it a disastrous week for a lot of people out there because nobody saw the Jacksonville Jaguars, like Jim would like to say, going up against the Indianapolis Colts and absolutely dominate the Indianapolis Colts. Listen, the Colts win, they're in. Mm-hmm. And they did not show up for that game. Mm-hmm. I don't know what happened, who pissed in their cornflakes. They just fucked up.
We fucked up.
Yeah, totally. That's what Carson Wentz was probably thinking that whole game. Like, he's getting rushed all over. He ended up getting sacked, I think it was like 6 times, but then through the interception, he fumbled. Did not look very good in that game, and Jacksonville came to play. You know, you talk about those teams that really don't have anything to really win for because Jacksonville had locked up the number 1 overall pick in the 2022 draft.
Right.
So they really don't have a whole lot, but you know what? Those teams still want to play hard and get to be spoiler for some of these other guys. And it's just as good, I think, for them to be able to say that they ruined that team's chance to make the playoffs ruined their day and their season.
Right. Not to mention they end the season on a win, at least. You know what I mean? And here's the thing is Jacksonville Jaguars haven't been really competitive all season. You know what I mean? There was a few games where they showed something, but now that Urban Meyer is kicked out of the door, you saw that team kind of group up together. They came together and really played their balls off in that game. They were all out, and they wanted that game badly. So they end up kicking the Colts out of the playoffs, play spoiler. Good for them. And there was a lot of surprises, too. I mean, look at the Detroit Lions, for example. Green Bay. I don't care who you are out there. There's no way you pick the Detroit Lions to beat the Packers. And not to mention, the starters were going to play. I was surprised. I thought for sure Green Bay was going to rest them. And in turn, they did, in a sense. They played for the first half, basically. In the second half, they all sat them. So, but Detroit, they end up getting another win this season, a competitive team, and here they are, and they beat Green Bay.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you mean. They started them for the first half and then pulled them out afterwards. You know, you see Aaron Rodgers there with the headset on. During the second half, they put Jordan Love in, and you got to see what he's capable of, which isn't much. And that probably helped. I think Aaron Rodgers was liking that, too, because it helped solidify, I think, his shot here for the league MVP. And the Detroit Lions, you can't say anything better than what they are. Yes, they're one of the worst teams overall by record in the NFL, but you're talking about a team that still plays for your coach and still plays hard, right, to try and get a win at the end of the season. Right. Like we haven't seen with some of these other teams, like my New York Giants. You know, they just look dead in the water, can't really do a whole lot, didn't try to do anything for their coach, and just look like they probably should be the team with the number 1 overall pick this season in the draft. So, I mean, that's a whole total difference here. You saw some teams, again, spoil it for the chance to make the playoffs here. And you see other teams play hard. Look at the way the Pittsburgh Steelers played this past game here in a nail-biter to pull out a win for Big Ben to try and get him into the playoffs here and make a run. And they were watching that game where the Las Vegas Raiders and the Chargers. I shut that game off for a second because I thought the Raiders had locked that game in because the Chargers were there. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I checked back again, and then the Chargers had scored and got right back into that game. And that thing, I can't believe it went into overtime and the Raiders come out, but the Steelers were weighing on that. And the funny thing about that game is I'm thinking the whole time because everybody's talking about scenarios to run. They're like, oh, we're hoping for a tie. We want to see this. And I'm like, no, it's not even going to be like that. Like, what's the chances of there being a tie in this one? And overall, after everything was said and done, I'm like, holy crap. Like, this might be a tie here. Like, they ran it out to as long as they possibly could for this game to get everybody amped up for this tie. But Raiders come out on top with a kick. And I think some of it, too, the Raiders played hard. I give them credit for winning this game. But, again, time and time again, Brandon Staley and some of his decisions he's making really does not help this football team at all.
No, and it comes down to those fourth down conversions that he needs to make. And it's not just about – sometimes you have to just simplify the game and just – listen, if it's not there, don't push it. I mean, for going for it on 4th and long is absolutely kind of insane. No defense should allow that conversion to happen. So you're automatically basically saying, oh, we're going to give it a shot, but if we don't get it, oh, who cares, right? Well, those decisions later on down the game, maybe not right there at that point, but later on down the game, they come back to haunt you. And there was a couple of situations where he went for it on 4th down, didn't get it, and then you turn the ball over. The Raiders had the ball, I believe, at the 30-yard line at one point. The Chargers' 30-yard line.
Yeah, it was right there.
It was like, bro, why didn't you just punt the ball? Play the field of position game here. Because you're back in your – listen, you don't get that like he didn't. Now you're basically giving the Raiders points. You know what I mean? It's a short field goal. If you shut them down like they did, it's a short field goal, but you're giving them 3 points, basically, and just handing that ball back over. So – you gave the Raiders an opportunity to maybe get a touchdown there. They didn't. They failed to do so, but they still came away with points, which is the bigger part of all this is those type of decisions in a playoff atmosphere type game, a game that you need to win to move on, or like Jim was saying, you could possibly end up in a tie that was on the table. Not early on in the game, it looked like the Raiders were going to kind of run away with it or at least sustain that lead, that 15-point lead, and end the game that way. But it went right down to the wire, and that was an option. There was a lot of speculation at the end of the game, too, where the Raiders had the football. They drove down the field. Seconds remaining. Clock is running. It looked like the Raiders were prepared to let it run out. Where that would mean if the teams ended in a tie, both teams make the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, the timeout happens.
Mm-hmm.
Chargers head coach calls a timeout with 20-some-odd seconds left or something like that. And I thought the Raiders called a timeout at first. I'm like, timeout? Oh, why are they calling a timeout? Let the clock run. Sure enough, it's the Chargers that called the timeout. And I'm like, this is interesting. Why? I'm like, okay, maybe he's thinking, well,
they're going to run another play. Or
if we get the ball back with some kind of time, like seconds or whatever, we're going to throw a Hail Mary or something, maybe, to get something.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, there was going to be so little time left
that
I don't know if that was so. And this is interesting, too, is after the game, Derek Carr, Rich Bisaccia even had both mentioned that timeout changed what they were going to do. So that makes me believe maybe they were willing to just be like, let's let the clock run out. We both make it. Great. You know what I mean? It's guaranteed that we're both in the playoffs, so we don't need to win to be in that way. And then when they called that timeout, then the Raiders are saying that changed our decision. So that maybe they were going to let it run out. But instead they're like, okay, you want to call a timeout? You want to try to beat us and knock us out? Well, we're already here. So we're going to let it run down to 2 seconds. And then we're going to call a timeout ourselves and kick the game-winning field goal.
Yeah, a lot of poor decisions there in a game that really mattered. And now when you take a look at, again, like I said, the decisions he's made throughout the season, you're in that position right now because of things like that. Some of those games that they probably would have had some of those wins.
Oh, definitely.
That took it out of them, being able to be higher in the division and not even being able to play into that game.
Right.
So.
Let's talk about the biggest game that the Chargers had this season against the Kansas City Chiefs when he went for it not once, not twice, but 3 times on 4th downs and did not convert. Instead of kicking field goals,
which you're already in scoring
which
position.
would have amounted to 9 points, which would have carried you to that win in the end. And, everything changes, though. When you get points and stuff, maybe the team gets more pressure, they make more mistakes. A lot can change. But that alone, by deciding to go for field goal, get those 3 points, that could have been the deciding factor to get that win over the Chiefs and maybe even be in this running to win the division instead of fighting for that last, that last spot.
Right. It seemed to me that like he's playing it like he's almost like an arena league coach.
It's like he's
you
playing
follow
Madden.
arena league. It's almost because you look at it, you're just like, well, figure we're right here. We can go down and score, but if we don't convert, we can still kind of hold them to something. Because on the next set of downs or whatever, when we get the ball back, we could probably just come back and score back. It seems to me again like he kind of plays it the way Arena League is coached. They go all out on it. There is no punting. There is no whatever. We just go balls out. I'll play it the way we play it, and let's just go. And it seems like he's like taking that approach to it because even on that fourth down. It was like a long 4th and 1. It was like 4.5, like 1.5. It was almost 2 yards. Like, what are you doing? And then you do a run there even. And what's funny when people try and justify it, they try and say the fact they're like, well, you've got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL there, and you put the ball in his hands. I'm like, but you did it. You put it in Austin Eckler's hands in that line to try and to push and try and get that first down. I'm like, so that doesn't make sense at all.
No.
It's again for him. He just wants to say, this is what I'm rolling with. This is how I do it. I'm stubborn and I believe in you guys. Let's go get it done. It can't always do it that way. And
Not
if you
always.
want to look at analytics, the difference between 45%, winning the game and 39%, to me, is still you're losing.
Right.
At 45%
Bottom line.
and 39%, you're still losing.
Right.
So punt it, live to fight another day, and then you have your defense make a stop and get that ball back. And with really good position when they punt.
Right. And for the Chargers head coach moving forward, learn from your mistakes right now for this season, because there was a few games that by your decision making as a coach costed you some wins. So instead, you got the L's. So hopefully he learns from this going into next season.
Oh yeah,
Definitely chose poorly. And there was listen, I'm not saying I like his aggressive ways. I like his aggressive decisions to a point. There comes a point where like it definitely depends on the situation at hand. If you're at midfield and you're like, we're going for it on 4th and 1. Okay, fine. If you're on their territory and it's 4th and short, and he obviously he believes in his team, and that's great. And they converted a lot of those 4th downs this season. However, when it's a critical game or a critical moment where it's 4th and long, 4th and 7, 4th and 8, maybe the better decision would be to either kick the field goal or punt it away.
Especially when you're scoring spots. At the end of the game, they converted a lot of 4th downs to try and get back in that to tie that game up and things because that was rough for them. They went right in a row and they were, but that's when it was balls to the wall. They had to. They were done, so they had to do it.
Yeah.
So there's nothing else that they needed to do there. But yeah, some of the other decisions, and that's where they lie where they are. So now Pittsburgh's in, and they beat a Baltimore team that again has its own share of injuries too as well. But again, it's played hard in a lot of some of these games here too. But still, I think throughout the season, they've been kind of that team. To me, that's almost like the way the Chiefs have been. They don't seem a lot like what we remember them. Like last year's Baltimore team. They didn't seem as dominant. There was a lot of closer games that shouldn't have been as close. Definitely. I mean, they got lucky with that long field goal, that record-making field goal here for them to beat the Lions. Then they got beat by the Dolphins. And then they still maybe had a little bit of a shot here and there, but just not playing up to what we're used to them seeing. And yes, because of COVID and because of injuries, Lamar Jackson and stuff like that, they've had their problems. But
missed several games. Yeah, definitely.
But again, I mean, teams that are in and out, that's what a decider was here. But besides
good
some
for
of those
the Steelers.
games, good for the Steelers. They get to do it. We'll see what happens.
Big Ben doesn't have to retire yet. He gets another week.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let me tell you, I saw this meme today actually, and it said retirement party hosted by the Kansas City Chiefs, because most likely that's going to be the last game that he plays for the Steelers. Because for me personally, I can't see the Steelers getting by Kansas City. I mean, that would be – listen, we've seen crazier things happen this season especially, but that's a really tall mountain to climb for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think their defense is up to the task, but offensively with Big Ben and – I don't know what's going on there offensively. It's like limited star power, limited explosive type of plays. They're like gone. They're not there in Pittsburgh anymore. And it does mean that there's a little bit of a changing of the guard there in terms of receiving core, because as much as everybody, me included, I love Chase Claypool. Love him. But he had a few drops this season where it kind of made me a little concerned going forward. Like, hey, is this just kind of like a glitch, or is this something that is going to tend to happen more often now? A guy that was clutch his rookie year comes back his second year and plays worse than his rookie year. It's a little weird. And then you're not going to have Juju. He'll be a free agent once again. He's not going to want to stay because who's going to be a quarterback? Nobody knows. Not even the organization right now. So maybe they manage to bring in one of these veterans, in free agency or something. Maybe they go in the draft. Maybe they do both. But there's a lot of questions with Pittsburgh. And Big Ben, congratulations on a really good career. Sorry about how it's got an end.
Right.
But all in all, Pittsburgh actually overachieved, I would say, this season more than any. Mm-hmm. I don't think they should have made the playoffs, but hey, they grinded it out, and here they are in round one.
This goes to show you, too, just keep fighting to see how far you can make it, because even with the issues that they did have at offensive line, still managed to find their way in, and some of these teams that let it squander away, like the Colts, losing to Jacksonville, a team that you should have beat.
Right.
How about that Kansas City game, though, too? That got really out of hand.
How about
it
them
seemed
Broncos?
like the Broncos were really put into them, and if it wasn't for that turnover, that fumble on that strip, when they tried the handoff there, that's a whole different game. Like, I don't know if Kansas City's back into that one.
And the crazy thing about that whole game is that Teddy B wasn't the quarterback.
Right, yeah.
It was Drew Lock, who's been in question of even being able to lead the team. So Drew Lock wakes up. Something like
and
that.
Melvin Gordon, too. Like, the way he was running the ball, too. I mean, it looked really good.
Everybody stepped up. And you got to wonder, the Denver Broncos as a team, I don't know if they had a private meeting before the game, during the week, but it seems like they just came out and wanted to win that game for Vic. Mm-hmm. Because we knew Vic Fangio, there was rumors circling around, he might lose his job, at the end of the season, this and that thing. And maybe they thought if they could pull off a big win against a big opponent inside the division, that maybe that would be enough to save Vic's jobs. Unfortunately, they ended up losing in the end. And Vic is now going to look for employment.
Yep, absolutely. But, I think he'll find a defensive coordinator job somewhere.
That's what he's good at.
To it. That's what he does.
Some guys
stepped into this. It was going to be tough for him to.
Some coordinators, assistants, whoever. So eventually, they become a head coach. Mm-hmm. They get an opportunity, but some guys that become head coaches just aren't good head coaches. They're great at their previous job as a coordinator, as an assistant head coach, something like that. But sometimes they just can't, they just don't make it. They're not as good or talented as some other head coaches. So it happens. I feel like Vic is one of those guys where he may not be a good head coach, but he's a phenomenal D coordinator. So he'll definitely have no problem finding work.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a few coaches and GMs lose their jobs this past week here after this exciting last week of the season here, week 18, their first week 18 ever, and it was definitely one for the books.
Sure was.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to thank you guys for listening to us on Spotify. All you guys that listen to us on the podcast, not only just watching us on YouTube, where you can find us at Football on the No Show. Yeah, anywhere you can find your podcast, Spotify, Apple Music. All you guys, thank you so much. But make sure you guys give us a rating. That helps out with everybody out there too, and us. We really appreciate it.
And follow us.
And follow us on Twitter, FB_no, also, and our Facebook group. If you guys haven't joined our Facebook group, check us out on Facebook. Everybody's out there. And join in on the fun. And you know what's a lot of fun right now is it's a new year. There's new goals, and at Mohawk Honda, they're doing whatever they can to set you in the vehicle that you want, that you deserve, to make your new year that much better. That's right. Stop into Mohawk Honda and check out the broad selection of pre-owned inventory. They're here to find the right make and model, the price point that'll fit your budget, and their goal is to help you meet your goals. Let the VIP man, Luis Morales, Jake Hot Sauce Doyle, Cars with Kem Swoboda, and Mark, also from Clifton Park. I love the different names that they have for these guys, because you know what? They need, these guys are like WWE superstars, the way they move cars and get you guys into the car that you want and everything and make everybody happy. They're just like superstars out there. They're like the superstars of wrestling. These guys are superstars of selling cars. That's right. I just did another rhyme. How do you like that? trademark. And right now is also the perfect time to do your trading too, because Kelly Blue Book instant cash offer is going on now too. So they'll cut you a check right there for the biggest price, whatever your car's worth right now. Kelly Blue Book, boom, whatever it is, write you the check right there, or trade it in on something nice and new, that new ride for the next year. So make sure you go check out BMAC out there, and also Cam McKenna too as well. Let's do a deal, and go to Mohawk Honda, where they go out of their way to please you, to take care of you guys. That's right. Start the new year right. All right, Joe. You know, somebody that's not starting the new year right is. First of all, a lot of these coaches, the way they're going here, though, too. But it's going to be my milk carton missing player of the week now, Joe. We've had a few, and I almost had another double whammy here. Or maybe I think a guy that was going to be the third time on this milk carton, but I couldn't pick a guy, so I said anyone on the Giants. I was looking at this team all together, and I couldn't even pick a poor person. There were so many bad performances, whether it be Saquon Barkley, I think, rushing 11 to 15 times, I think, for like 30 yards. Kenny Golladay, no real catches to his at all. It's everybody not performing at all. You know, Jake Fromm, he gets his first NFL touchdown to Darius Slayton at the end. Like, oh, good, la-di-da, but a lot of turnovers, too, on top of that. Just everybody altogether not playing well, not playing for their coach, not motivated. The New York Giants, they were just completely gone this week. I mean, what? They put up 7 points, I think? I mean, against a Washington team that really is not doing very well either. You know what I mean? A team to where, I mean, it's funny the difference now. If everybody wants to bash Daniel Jones and say he's not the guy, at least when he was in there, they should have won that game when they played Washington the first time with Taylor Heineke and everybody there. It just came up to that Dexter Lawrence offsides on that kick on the field goal.
Right.
And that's all defended there, and they should have had that victory there. But now with them not there, the injuries and overall just performance of this team, I couldn't pick a bad guy. I almost put Carson Wentz on there. He's been a multiple
That's kind of what
guy.
I was thinking.
I was, but again, I'm like, he did have a touchdown. I think he had an interception.
Yeah, but he missed a lot of throws.
A lot of throws. He got sacked a bunch of times. The fumble that he lost. Played very poorly. So I was like, I'm going to go easy on him, and I'm going to bash my own team for the last
And
week.
by the way, a little nugget about Carson Wentz, and for the Colts fans out there, is that the rumor is that the Indianapolis Colts are not afraid to pull the trigger and flat out cut Carson Wentz. If they do so and move on from him, that would mean it'd be $15 million in dead cap money. And they are willing to swallow that pill just to get rid of him. So for anybody that thinks that Wentz is locked in there in Indianapolis, it doesn't sound like it's that safe of a job for him. So Carson Wentz could be moved. They could just flat out let him go and move on a different direction. Because why? Because there's going to be a ton of quarterbacks, veteran quarterbacks, and quarterbacks with big names that will be available this offseason.
Absolutely. It is. It's going to get pretty hairy there. And he showed you kind of what he is. Everybody knew it, and everybody was praising him for the just basically not making mistakes for a few weeks in a row, allowing Jonathan Taylor, to run the ball and really be that offense and just be the game manager. And we kind of saw that that's what he is capable of doing right now, just be the game manager.
Sure.
But then he has his days. He just makes the mistakes, misses the throws. I don't know if it's pressure again.
When he
I always feel like
step
it is.
up.
He fails, and that's not what they needed. They were trying to move on from Phillip Rivers and some of these other guys to try and get that guy that can get them to the next step, and it doesn't look like he's the answer. So, again, we're seeing that right now in this past week, last week, so we knew a lot of guys were going to lose their jobs here, Joe. So we're going to go over the coaches' firings and the GM firings, too, as well, moving forward here. And I think the first name, again, that dropped was Vic Fangio for the Broncos, which, again, I guess they played underwhelmingly, but you're deciding between two quarterbacks and Teddy Bridgewater, which is a rehash, that's still a pretty decent quarterback, and Drew Lock, to where you kind of already had him there, and just you already knew what he was there. He wasn't going to be your starter to get it done.
No, not at all. And that's they already moved on from Drew Lock. This season was that kind of like the position is open. You two guys, Drew Lock and Teddy B, you guys fight over it. Whoever wins it, wins it. They decided to go with Teddy Bridgewater. And he didn't do a bad job. Did a fairly, he played fairly well for the season. And, despite having some injuries along the way, missing some games. The offense wasn't too bad. It wasn't in bad shape. So, and then here comes Drew Lock. When Teddy B is done for the season, Drew Lock comes in, and for the last couple of weeks, and it seems like, I don't know, he just felt the pressure, or someone lit a fire under his ass to, hey, you better start earning your keep around here and start to play a lot better, because he could have been on his way out of Denver as well, because they're not paying him a ton of money, and they might look to move on from both of them. So Drew Lock, wow. I mean, I'll say this. Against Kansas City, played a perfect game by his standards, and really surprised some people. So maybe, just maybe, there's some hope for Drew.
Right, and as far as Vic Fangio, again, their defense, that's his strength here. They got it done. They were third overall in points for, and eighth against for yardage. So that defense was getting it done here. But overall, you heard about it when Joe Flacco was even there. A lot of just I think the organization, the way it was, him as a head coach, I think just wasn't the right fit there. I think he just needs to stay as that D coordinator spot.
Absolutely.
It just fits him better altogether, and that's what he wants to concentrate on. Because when you again look at the flip side of the offense, they could just never really get it going. 23rd ranked this season too as well. So, and that's the problem. And also it hurts you when you don't have that franchise quarterback there, where that goes to the upper office, to where they have made mistakes time and time again and missed after. Really, the last time they did it is when they really John Elway convinced Peyton Manning to come and try and win a couple of Super Bowls before he exited. So
yeah, I don't even give them credit for that, because that was just too easy, right? You add Peyton Manning and you instantly become a Super Bowl caliber team. So when's the last time Denver actually drafted a quarterback and was successful?
That was successful.
So
yes.
That's decades ago. Now you look at their situation now, moving on from Vic Fangio, that's the best thing. I feel like he's been there long enough to where now you can sit there and say, okay, this is what we have. We haven't had a playoff push in the years that he's been here. We haven't been even close. Not many winning seasons at all. So it's time to go. It's time to make a change. And they did. And here's the thing. Going to the front office, there was a lot of changes in the front office, whether it be John Elway stepping down from being a GM. Now he's running part of the front office the administration. And now it's like a lot of the decisions that were being made, they added talent, but they still don't have that important ingredient in a football roster, is quarterback. It's still missing. It seems like they went backwards in terms of building a team. They built a defense. They built weapons around everybody. Their offensive line is average, but they still are missing that quarterback. So until they correct that position, I don't see this team going very far.
Yeah, absolutely. And then after that, we heard about Vic Fangio. A couple of the other hammers dropped. One of them also being now Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman, too, here for the Minnesota Vikings. Joe, what do you think about this, get rid of both the GM and the head coach here?
Well, to be fair, Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer have been there for quite a few years. So, listen, they've built a good roster. It's not that they haven't been able to improve the team or make it. Mike Zimmer, if you go back to his history and like his records that he's had as a head coach, most of the time he's been pretty successful. He's been in the win column a lot more than you would think. And they've had, I think, about 2 or 3 playoff appearances since he's been there. So Mike Zimmer isn't a terrible coach. It's just I feel like the organization is a little tired of just not making it too often. And with the roster that they had and with the amount of money that they spent on this roster, you look at the guy that's just right there, slaps you in the face, is Kirk Cousins with a $30 million a year guaranteed contract. And what's the result? Not a Super Bowl run, not even an NFC championship game. So that right there, they've invested a ton of money on free agents, the drafting defensive players to help Zimmer and his defense, and it's just not enough. So now Spielman's been there long enough. Zimmer's been there long enough. Now it's time to turn the page, maybe get a fresh start with a new head coach, new staff, new GM, and let's see where Minnesota can take it from here, because we all know that Minnesota was on that little bit of a time window where at any point in the last 2 years, things were going to – guys, they weren't going to be able to afford people. Kirk Cousins, this is it. His last year was this season. Now, Minnesota's got to make a tough decision. Do they want to keep Kirk Cousins, pay him more money, or move on and do a rebuild? So they spent – a draft pick, I think second-round pick on Kellen Mond, the quarterback. Do they go with him now and kind of just change everything over? So a lot of decisions that got to be made in Minnesota, a lot of moving parts on the staff. So we'll see where they end up. We'll see what their new head coach looks like and new GM.
Yeah, right. And then you said it. They made the playoffs 3 times within the time of Mike Zimmer, and that particular times, those times they were 11-5, 13-3, and 10-6.
Yeah, not bad
records. The one was lost the wild card. Second time they lost the conference championship, and that was with Case Keenum even. So since then, now with Kirk Cousins at the helm, they lost the divisional round. So they only made it to the divisional round and lost then. So like you said, when you get to the GM, he's the guy that shopped for the groceries. And he didn't look at coupons or anything. He just shelled all out and paid the big high prices at the big box stores and stuff like that. And this is what they got. A team that the last 2 seasons have not made the playoffs. And that's where it comes down to the coach. Said, hey, listen, I feel I've given you the talent to get it done. I mean, look at Justin Jefferson out there. Great signing there, or a draft there for them to get that there, even after moving on from Stephon Diggs. So then that way the Buffalo Bills benefit from that, but then the Vikings still can move on and go forward here. So what was the other problem there for them? Maybe some of the defense was getting a little too long in the tooth and issues there, having some problems. But Kirk Cousins, too, also seems like at times, at certain times of certain weeks, just didn't get on the page with the wide receivers at all times. Wasn't really getting this offense together to where I think Dalvin Cook had to be that main guy to really get that ball moving to open up the offense for him altogether. But altogether, Zimmer's been there for a while. He's been on the hot seat. We've heard about it for a while now. And finally, they're saying enough. It's time to move on. The Kirk Cousins era is done. You guys tried it. We gave you 8 years or so. Now let's see what we got out there. Who's out there? And there's a few different options out there. We've already heard some of the guys that they've brought in and decided to interview and stuff. But I think one of the interesting names out there that just recently got fired is Brian Flores of the Miami Dolphins. To me, I think that became like quite a surprise. I think when I heard that news about Brian Flores being fired after going 9-8 this season, to where they had all those picks stocked up, they had made some great moves the way that organization's been going. It seemed like even though they've suffered with enough of their injuries too as well, with even the problems with the quarterbacks, with COVID and Tua going in and out, with Jacoby Brissett trying to, keep the ship afloat, defense looked like it was starting to kind of gel together, and they had something going here. They went on that 8-game win streak to where, the first 7 they lost. So it didn't look good to finally finish at 9-8, and there goes the axe. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It seems to me like there's something going on within the organization that we heard all those talks about. Maybe they're interested in the Deshaun Watson trades here and there, and I really feel like Brian Flores thought they could win with the guys that they had now and say, hey, my formula is working. We're getting it going. You're seeing progress out there. Just let me do this. We don't need to go out and shell out more picks and things like that for Deshaun Watson. But I think management or ownership really wanted to do something else.
They want to make a big splash.
That's where it ended up being a problem, and I think that's why he's got the X now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And there was rumors out there about this, about Flores and his coaching staff kind of wanted to just rely on building the roster via draft and free agency to get to where they need to be. You know what I mean? And they were doing a great job of that. You look at that defense and how it came on, at the latter part of the season, how gelled they were and how much better they improved. And then offensively, they were getting there too. They lost some weapons early on, which kind of declined that progress that they were making early. But all in all, they were fighting through injuries. They were fighting through COVID. They didn't have Tua. I don't even remember the number of missed games that he had, but it had to be at least 5 or 6 games that he missed this season. And honestly, this is a promising team. It's a very young team, which needs time to develop, which needs time to get better, on top of making those adds this next offseason. So, listen, they drafted Jalen Waddle this past draft, and boy, has he played miraculously in his rookie year. Was kind of like the safety net for Tua. His comfort zone with Jalen Waddle is amazing, and you saw it as we got closer down the stretch this season. And that's only going to build. If you keep this team the way it is now, and you don't try to make too many changes, keep building, this team could be dangerous. You can see spurts of the defense showing up, and you see spurts of the offense showing up. And it's just a matter of putting it all together, and this team could be dangerous down the line. So I completely am absolutely shocked that Brian Flores is now looking for work when he's had an impressive few years with the Dolphins. You think about where this Dolphins team was before Brian Flores got there. They were lost. They didn't have winning seasons. They didn't even have a good roster. And this guy comes in there. Definitely, it wasn't all him. It was definitely part of the GM as well. And they worked together on building this team to be at least respectable now. Mm-hmm. And after it was a daunting task. I mean, they lost 7-8 games in a row early on in the season. But then the second half of the season, they win 8 straight, 9 straight, whatever it was. And that's impressive to me. How can you fire a coach that wins that many games in a row? Yeah, they didn't end up getting to the playoffs or whatever, but you can see the improvement is there. Why make a major change like this right now? Doesn't make any sense at all. And just like Jim was saying, just like we heard about the reports before, now it comes to be, sounds like they're true. Sounds like the coaching staff was comfortable with the roster that they were building, that they can win with this team, and in the front office, the ownership, whoever it was, maybe it was a GM, I don't know. But maybe they had different ideas. And they wanted to make, hey, you know what, let's get rid of Tua eventually. Let's make a big splash. Let's bring Deshaun Watson in here to really kind of boost the fan base, boost the, it'll probably boost wins too. But the coaching staff was like, why waste all that, why waste all those draft picks? Why waste all this money to do that? We have a winning team. So, lo and behold, Brian Flores is out there, which is astonishing as a head coach. If I was a head coach needy team, this is the first guy that I would hit up right now. Brian Flores, I would get him in your door. Don't let him leave until he signs a contract and make him your head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, too, because like you said, let's take a look back at this. He's been here with 3 seasons, all right? His first season, obviously, he inherited a team that was run by Adam Gase, and you know what went down when Adam Gase was there. We heard about, that offensive lineman that was getting picked on, too, that had a problem there, in the locker room. There was all kinds of issues there. And then you see what he's done and destroyed the Jets, too, Adam Gase. You saw what kind of stuff that he would do. So coming off from a coach like that to where they were doing he started off at 10-6, they went 6-10, and then 7-9. Come Brian Flores, you've got these picks, from that bad season to where they were on selling everybody. They sold all their guys off, got picks for it, so they went 5-11. But the last 2 seasons, 10-6 and 9-8. And that warrants a firing after you just went through the Adam Gase era. How does that make sense? And before that, you had Campbell and Philbin. And Philbin, that's where it was. That's when all the problems going was Joe Philbin. That's when all the issues were there. But you're talking about 8 seasons prior. That was terrible. Looks like you're turning the corner, and now you pull the trigger to seems like things are going too well. This doesn't seem right. We got to make a change here. I don't like this. It seemed like back sometimes when I was DJing, I would get the crowd going and stuff like that. And the owner would come up to me. It's like, whoa, everybody's on the dance floor. They're not buying enough drinks. Hold on. You need to stop this. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. What do you mean? I got everybody bumping, moving. This is nice. No. You need to do something. Change this up. Play something this. You don't know what you're doing. I get paid to do this. You should just shut up and let me do my job. And I think that's what's happening here with the Miami Dolphins, to where Joe said as well, now this opens the door to where I think other teams out there now that just fired their coach and some other guys that are looking for somebody, Brian Flores really right now for a younger up-and-coming coach,
best coach right now,
seems like a really good option. Instead of saying, hey, maybe I'll grab another offensive coordinator and see how he does, or maybe I'll grab an older, tried and true type of head coach and try and bring him back into the game and see what he can do. Brian Flores, still young, still productive, and they were moving in the right direction. And he knew the formula to beat the Patriots, too. Some of these other coaches or former personnel from the New England Patriots couldn't really figure out that formula, and really he could do it. He could do it in this division and put it to Bill Belichick. He had that formula to play tough and play hard. So he has that type of mentality and that type of swagger behind him, and everybody to get behind him and do this. I think other coach or organizations that are looking for a head coach might consider him. It all depends on some of them that are looking for a GM, if that GM thinks the same thing as well.
I would say this: if I'm a team looking for a head coach right now, and yes, there's other candidates that are still out there. You think of Eric Bieniemy or Byron Leftwich, just to name a couple of guys that have been kind of rumored since last season to be favorites to become head coaches. I would still put Brian Flores ahead of them. To me, this is a shocking move by the Dolphins to let go a coach of this magnitude. And to be honest, he proved a lot of people wrong, because he was an assistant from the New England Patriots who steps in as a head coach. There was some speculation whether he would succeed or fail, and he's proved everybody wrong. And he's a pretty darn good head coach. He makes great decisions in game, out of game, game planning. So Brian Flores has got to be the leading candidate for everybody. And the first team that's going to get a chance to interview him right now is the Chicago Bears. And if you're the Bears, I think Flores is entertaining it, and of course he's going to go for the interview. But I don't think Flores wants to make a quick decision, because he knows his star power. He knows that he's wanted as a head coach. So he's going to probably take his time, see how many teams are interested, and go to all these different interviews, and then make a decision after all the dust settles. So Chicago's the first stop. Brian Flores is getting in there. The Bears are going to probably want to sign him, but I feel like Flores is going to – if Flores is smart, he'll take his time, see what other offers are out there, see what other teams might want him, and then make a decision.
Yeah, and you talk about the Chicago Bears here, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. We've talked about this hot seat for a couple seasons now, and they finally had enough. Again, you
really?
had your
Now
excuses.
it's enough?
Again, he's Matt Nagy had moved on and moved play calling on to as well to a different offensive coordinator. Then he went back to it as well. You try to blame, Mitch Trubisky for some of it too. He goes to Buffalo. So now you've got your own guy. You've got Justin Fields in here. He was still selling you on Andy Dalton. I got to have Andy Dalton in there. He also brought in Nick Foles. So he was selling you on this other stuff. You didn't want to really go to the Justin Fields type of deal here. And I don't know if that was more of even the ownership wanted to go with that. And then if Ryan Pace was on board, obviously he had to be part of it because he went and drafted Justin Fields here. But again, these two have been paired together for a while now. They had a little bit things going on here with that defense, and that defense is still playing well, I think, for even some of the injuries that they've fought through this season. But that offense, that thing that Matt Nagy has been there for, really not gearing up and not doing really he had promoted that he should be doing.
No, and you listen, he's been scrutinized for his play calling. He's been scrutinized for his in-the-game decisions, and now it's all come to a head. And it's actually late. I mean, you could have justified firing this guy 2 seasons ago because of how porous he's been able to handle his job, whether it be personnel decisions or people that he's brought in and have failed. Andy Dalton's another one on the list. I mean, he was all in on Andy Dalton, saying this is the guy, we bring him in, we can win some games this season. He'll be the starter no matter what, even though they went out and drafted Justin Fields. So it was almost like he made up his mind before the draft even occurred, what he wanted to do with this team. And it's at a great failure for the Chicago Bears. And for this long that Matt Nagy's been the head coach, and I would not even blame Ryan Pace as the GM, because I feel like Pace did a decent job there in Chicago, bringing in talent, re-signing talent. The draft did a fairly good job since he's been there. But Nagy, oh, man, this just wasn't a good hire from the get-go for Chicago. And now it's time, it's overdue to move on from Nagy. So good luck, Chicago. Let's hope you bring in the next head coach for the Bears and that he works out, because this franchise has been waiting and waiting and waiting for a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. They've been waiting for it. They've had made the deals. They went out and got Khalil Mack there, too, when he had his problems here with Vegas, or then the Oakland Raiders. And it looked like something surprising. They were moving on, and they just figured, hey, we need that quarterback to get it done here. And Mitch Trubisky, they tried a little too long on him, I think, and tried to see what he had, if that panned out. And then Nagy, like you said, I think a year too long. Now you're stuck in this position where you are, but I think it's a great time to make this transition right now for the Bears, at least with the fact that they have Justin Fields there. And I think they can really revolve around him, and now they have the quarterback, which I think can be a franchise quarterback for these guys. And you just need somebody to go in there, help him grow, and fix some of the situations that they have, and somebody get a nice, good defensive coordinator in there. I don't think it should be a defensive-minded coach again. I think it's a guy that can work with the quarterback,
yep.
Get it going. Somebody like maybe a Jim Harbaugh or something like
Byron
that.
Leftwich.
We've heard stuff like that. Byron Leftwich is a name we've been banging on the door for.
To be honest,
we've seen things like that, and I think that's what they need right now.
Byron Leftwich would be a good marriage for Chicago, I feel like, because he's been around quarterbacks his post-career, if you will, because he used to play quarterback himself in the NFL. Not a very long career, but nonetheless, he was involved, and then he switched over to coaching after his career was over and has been involved with quarterbacks since. Calling plays, he's worked through the ranks. He was a quarterback's coach, then an offensive coordinator, and now you're seeing him do a really good job as an offensive coordinator. And no matter where he's been, he was with Arizona at one point. He's with Tampa Bay now. And he is definitely deserving of being a head coach somewhere. And I feel like Chicago would be a great place for a guy like Byron Leftwich because of his involvement with the quarterbacks, and now to come to help Justin Fields mature and grow and develop in Chicago amongst just putting some extra pieces around, better protection on the offensive line, because we know that was a little bit of a weakness there for the Chicago Bears. And he's going to have to add a couple more weapons because Allen Robinson, who has been tagged this past season, is now going to be a free agent. And Chicago's not going to place another tag on him. It would just be way too expensive. So he will be leaving Chicago, and they're going to have to replace him with somebody, whether it be through the draft or free agency, and they're going to have to build this roster out. Good thing is they already got the most important position taken care of. Justin Fields is there. So he's the franchise right now. And now you just got to build around him. The defense is solid, and the offense just needs some tweaking. So maybe you bring Byron Leftwich in. That's my pick for the Chicago Bears, and let's see if it all works out.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, that's an interesting job for that to be open, and we'll see where they go with the GM and coaching situation. But again, one of those teams, I think you're going to go GM first, then you'll find your coach. I think afterwards, to go get your coach first before you get your GM, I think is a big mistake. But one of the things that just happened too was it yesterday or the day before, which was kind of funny because it's Joe Judge being fired after only 2 years. We'll bring it up there. But when I'm hearing stuff like, Brian Flores getting fired, I'm sitting here as a Giants fan saying, what the hell's wrong with my organization then? If all of a sudden Brian Flores goes 10-6 and then 9-8 and he still gets fired, how come Joe Judge is still there? He hasn't had a winning season yet. I mean, it doesn't look like the team's rallying behind him, even though he says he can judge a man by staring into his eyes and see what kind of heart he has and this and that. Well, it doesn't look like they're playing with any heart out there. It doesn't look like they're even really trying. It doesn't look like there's even a real team out there. So not a whole lot of people rallying behind Joe Judge, so I don't even know what he's literally looking at out there. He just likes to sit on the sidelines there and do this weird arm thing right there, like he's still trying to adjust his sleeve for some reason. Really not doing a whole lot. For the reason that he was staying there, I wasn't sure. But the past 2 weeks, though, he's sort of seen him be very vocal with the media and try and point fingers at other previous coaches, see how they did. Others around the league, too. Say, hey, well, at least I'm not this guy. We've seen guys make decisions like this, but that's not how I roll. I think he was feeling the pressure. I think he saw it towards the end, too. He got really desperate, but then also cashing it in on that last game to where he says, I didn't want to have it turn out like that Chicago Bears game, and when it was 3rd and 9 on our side of the field and we were pinned up against the goal line, I just want to do a quarterback sneak here, so it gave our punter a better field position and a little more space, so we didn't risk maybe a block for a touchdown or that safety. Now, if you have nothing really else to play for but to try and just win, get one more win out of it, to try and save your job, to try and make yourselves feel good about yourself, something like that, something other than that, you'd think you would try anything on 3rd down. We saw the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had a chance even to do something. They was 3rd, I think, and 11, and they do a run. And they took it all the way and got the 1st down on that out of desperation. They still got it down. They didn't say, hey, well, it's 3rd down in 11. We might as well just do a quarterback sneak and maybe we'll get out of this alive. No, they went for it. When you have nothing else to lose, why don't you do whatever you can to get it done? It just made like no sense at all. You're already tanking it in, cashing it in, and now you've coached your last game. Like we saw now that with David Gettleman, now he was already planning to take the gentleman's way out here and say, listen, I'm just stepping away. I know I'm probably going to get fired, but I'm just going to step away now. Now I'm retiring, so it looks better on my resume. Retired after a while. And now Joe Judge is finally gone, so that makes me feel I have some comfort at night now to know that next season I don't have a coach that's just sitting there that might butt heads with a GM that doesn't really want him, but the ownership was like, no, we still want to give this guy another shot here. So you guys have to try and make it work. No, I don't want to see any of that. So at least this time, we get to see a GM come in, pick the coach that he wants, and maybe we can do an overall rehaul of everything. Not a whole lot, but something different, something to get these guys inspired, and something better than what's been on the field the past 2 seasons. Joe.
Are you done? You good?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a rant, man. I had to take my time here with this one.
Well, it's real simple. Dave Gettleman, the writing was on the wall for Dave Gettleman to leave, either whether he retire or he gets fired. And he takes the gentleman's way out, like Jim just mentioned, and ends up saying it's a retirement this season. But we all know he was going to get pushed out. Listen, there's been a couple of things that he's screwed up decision-making wise. The draft hasn't been that great for the Giants. They've managed to hit on a couple of picks with some extra picks along the way. He still hasn't improved the team enough to get back to their winning ways. So, poor decision-making in terms of personnel for Gettleman. He's had some poor free agent signings. He's had some poor draft picks that just haven't panned out to what was expected. You look at Andrew Thomas, who was a very high pick and is not in the Pro Bowl yet. That's usually really concerning for an offensive lineman and hasn't even been in that kind of realm of discussion. So that's one. Another one is trading up for a guy like Daniel Jones and using a high first-round pick again, where we know now it's been a few years to where Daniel Jones has time and time again disappointed Giants fans with poor decision-making and turn the ball over and not being able to learn from his mistakes. To now the Giants are kind of in this position right now where they almost got to start over again and find a different quarterback to lead the way. So, and it's not to say that the Giants are far off. I feel like they're one of those teams that are kind of underrated with what they have right now in terms of their roster. Their defense is kind of like the one thing that's been very solid for New York and has kept them in a lot of games and at times has won them the game. So when you look at what Dave Gettleman has done this past offseason, he's managed to build on the outside in. So he kind of didn't make too many moves in terms of the offensive line. He said, "Oh, we're going to be good there. We're getting some guys back healthy. We're going to be okay." But we got to bring in big-time receivers like Kenny Galladay and Darius Slayton's going to further develop. So we got him. We got Sterling Shepard back. He's going to be healthy again. So we got some pieces to use. But the offensive line is what you need to address, and it still didn't happen up to this point. So minus the Andrew Thomas selection, I don't see enough change there on the offensive line. So hopefully the next GM that steps in is going to address that to protect whatever quarterback, whether it be Daniel Jones or somebody else. You got to protect your quarterback, your investment there. So Gettleman's moving on, and it rightfully so. I feel like this is the right move for New York. But when it comes to Joe Judge, after only being there for 2 years, what do you want from the guy? Only been there 2 seasons, and you're expecting the Giants to be playoff caliber, Super Bowl contending? I don't see that. It takes time to change over the roster in your vision as a head coach. And unless you give a guy at least 3 to 4 years to make that change, that's not enough time. So for Joe Judge to lose his job already after 2 seasons, he really listen, the defense is so much better than what it used to be for New York. So that's improvement. And then you look at this offense, and it's like, okay, they didn't play up to expectation so much this season, but there's something there. They're putting talent around the football. So if they happen to bring in and change over some positions on the offensive line, that might be the difference of making this team overall a competitive one for next season. So just 2 years, now no longer the head coach of the New York Giants. I feel like that was a little too soon for Joe Judge to be fired, and for any coach, whether it be college or NFL. Not enough time to make your changes that you see fit and teach and train the offense or defense to be 100% all in on your schemes. So sorry, Joe, you're out 2 years and you're gone. But maybe the Giants have some something up their sleeve in terms of the next head coach. Maybe that's why they pulled the trigger and they wanted to move on, wanted to clean house completely. So let's see what New York does in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Mike Tackett's in the house with us tonight. And we've got Greg Schreider is also in the house with us tonight. Absolutely. There you go. Let's go read through the comments here. Mike Tackett says, happy hump day here, everybody. Playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs, happy hump day. Last week I went 11-5, making me 181-91 for the year. Nice, Mike. You caught right up to me. I have you by 1 game, so I just finished up better than you. But we got the playoffs here, like you said. We got wild card coming up. I'm only a few games behind Joe. I'm hoping maybe this week in the wild card's gonna be wild west here. Maybe I can come back here on
it
some
could
of these.
be.
We'll
it
see.
Very well
all right,
be.
for this week's games, he's going Cincy, Buffalo, Tampa, and Dallas, KC, and Arizona. Sorry, Ben. Greg Schreiner, he says, as someone who had been watching the Bills religiously the past 30 years, I can't help but laugh at the Giants and their inability to compete. Yeah, the Giants, they look terrible.
It's because of decision-making.
It's bad. It's all together. That's what I mean. You go from a team that looks like even some of them, the games you're in. You're in some of these games against Tampa Bay and some of these other guys. And then this year especially, you just look like you're not even there to play. Like you just showed up. Right. I mean, we went to the Raiders-Giants game there. Was that the last time they even won? I mean, they played tough. They ran the football and they played tough against your Raiders team. It looked like they were trying to win, but it seems like since Daniel Jones went down and stuff, and after that, they've just been struggling and just losing momentum and being disheartened. He tries to say that these guys are still playing with heart, and the golf bags aren't by the door. I wouldn't be so sure about that, man. They were ready to go. They're ready to check out, especially I think Kenny Galladay. Like you said, you bring him in, and he's supposed to be that guy. You pay him $72 million. Fans were excited. You're like, yes, Dave Gettleman. He's making those moves. He's doing the things that we want him to do. Wasn't sure. I didn't want Dave Gettleman in the first place. But when he started talking that stuff like, hey, maybe we trade Odell, we can get some picks for that and stuff, I'm like, okay. I'm hearing some guy that's looking to shake it up, make some moves. He's thinking the way I'm thinking a little bit. But one of those things he got out of that was DeAndre Baker. What's happened with DeAndre Baker? Failure. And some of the other guys he's missed on too with some of the draft picks, like you said, some of the free agents pickups. He did the Nate Solder deal too as well because, again, you need O-line. This guy's available. This guy's a stud. I'm going to grab him. I'm going to pay him what he wants. So we got this guy. That's the thing, and I understand. Yeah, I'm listening to you guys. This is what we need. Here, I'm shopping. I'm getting what you need. This guy looks good. This guy looks good. But it didn't really pan out. And some of it maybe even just be personnel, working with the coaches, not just lining up right, not sure, not a good mix. Kenny Galladay is supposed to be that guy, taller guy, get you on those 50-50 balls, but he hasn't really shown it. For me, every time I see him on some of those, he's got the corners on him that are like 10 times shorter than him, all over him like flies on honey, and he can't get them off him. Can't make the big play. What's up with that? But that's even when he's even targeted within the game. So it's harder to now that Daniel Jones isn't there. You don't have your starter in there. You're down to your third-string quarterback. So right now, what are you really to expect? But like I said, at least for those guys that are, down to your third stringers, that guys are really trying to do something, to go out there and try to do something for themselves and play, they seemed like they weren't playing with any kind of heart as well, and they checked out. Mike Tackett says, New York Giants offseason, restructure Barkley, draft a QB, address O-line and free agency, keep balling on defense. I think that's a great plan. I think that's what I'm looking at, too, as well. You've got the 5th and the 7th overall pick this year. I think they have 5 picks in the first 80 picks altogether. So you've got some room to make some moves on some things. I think now that Russell Wilson deal is probably out the window because we're hearing now that he's probably going to stick around in there. Not sure. That could be Seattle blowing smoke out there just to say, no, we're good. Everybody don't look at what we're doing here. We're looking good right here. But we'll see. Again, I think a really nice move is try and get an O-lineman or maybe that pass rusher, somebody first or somewhere around there. We'll see what we got and look at one of those quarterbacks right there in your top 10. That's a good option right there.
What needs to happen is they need to go after a quarterback and an offensive lineman.
There you go.
Or if the new GM that comes in, if he thinks like, hey, we can win with Daniel Jones as long as we protect him, then they could even double up in the first round and go offensive line to really help kind of boost it. And work maybe in the second round, maybe draft a guy that's up and coming type of a quarterback. So there's a lot of different ways that they could go about this. And don't forget, free agency is a part of the draft. So whether they need a veteran offensive lineman or maybe even a quarterback is on the table, whether it be via trade or free agency, there's going to be guys available, for the Giants. So who knows, maybe Kirk Cousins in free agency, they bring him in to compete against Daniel Jones. And then they're also going to revamp that offensive line. Maybe that's enough to get the Giants offense upstart and going. So there's a lot of different ways they could attack this offseason, and it's really going to come down to when we see what kind of GM they hire and what kind of head coach and that staff. Then we can kind of maybe make our best educated guess on what direction that they're going to end up going.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's a big thing for them. Where do they go with GM? We've talked about Louis Rick a bunch of times. They're doing interviews right now with a bunch of other people right now. We'll see what happens, and then we'll talk about it further there. I'm just afraid that they do make one of those dumbhead moves, but again, it depends on what the GM is. Do I trust them? Are they going to do the thing where you're here in Cleveland now? They might move on from Baker Mayfield. Do they decide to go? Let's go trade for Baker Mayfield to have him compete against Daniel Jones.
There's conflicting reports about Baker now. Now they're saying that they might be comfortable bringing him back for 2022 season. So there's a lot of uncertainty in Cleveland as well. So, I mean, we know as fans, like, maybe it is time to move on from Baker. Maybe it is time to move on from Daniel. But in the end, it's going to come down to whoever's in charge in making these decisions. So I believe that it's, as far as Cleveland goes, they should move on from Baker, because Baker, to me, is nothing more than a backup at this point in his career. He is what he is. So let's wait and see what both of these teams do.
Mike Tackett says, I want to see Kenny Pickett go to the Steelers, but New York Giants makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think that's a great move for them. I think that's who I want them to draft. Kenny Pickett, I think, is a nice fit for the Giants. I think it's what they need. And, again, he will still be able to, I think, pressure Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones really has been complacent there. Who have they really had as their backup there that's really going to threat them? Give them a threat that you don't have the job.
No,
you know what I mean. They've worked over with them time and time again. I mean, it's like I said. I think last week or a week before, even too. It's where you try and tell somebody, you give them instructions. Hey, people make mistakes. If somebody starts on the job, they make mistakes. You want them to learn from the mistakes. But you keep telling them you're making a mistake, and they're like, yeah, I get this. I'm working on this. I'm doing that, and da-da. And they keep doing the same thing over and over again. Once that starts to happen, you got to be like in your mind, like, all right, I got to come to the realization that there's just no helping this guy. This is who this guy is. He's not who I really need him to be right now, but this is what he is. So I either got to move on or I got to just put him in another position what fits for him. And bad enough with a quarterback, there aren't any other positions you can really set him in. And, at least with corners and some other guys, you can maybe move him to safety and stuff like that.
Mike Tackett just chimed in and said Jameis is the best available quarterback in free agency. I disagree.
Yeah.
Because Aaron Rodgers is going to be the best free agent available. and that's the thing, too, is like there's going to be so many different ways that teams can attack this season.
Yeah.
Whether it be trading for a quarterback like maybe possibly Russell Wilson or going all out for like a guy like Aaron Rodgers to try to bring him in. Or even pulling a blockbuster trade and trying to bring Deshaun Watson onto your roster. So there's a lot of different ways. Plus, there's going to be even more free agents out there as well. Kirk Cousins, I know a lot of people like to make fun of him, but he's actually not a terrible quarterback. If you're looking for a guy to manage your team, he can do that. You just got to give him protection. So there's going to be options out there. Who knows? Maybe Baker gets cut. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different ways things could go. So I'm a huge fan of Aaron Rodgers right now. I feel if there's a team that needs a quarterback, that would be my first guy to go after. But other than that, pick your poison. Sign somebody. Trade for someone. There's gonna be some craziness this offseason, especially for that quarterback position.
And Mike Tackett's right here. He says, you think Green Bay, you just said Aaron Rodgers lets A-Rod go, super max deal, but no Adams in my opinion, he says.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Listen, this is why they came to an agreement to not being able to tag Aaron Rodgers, because Rodgers wanted the power to say, I'm going to make the decision. Mm-hmm. So I feel like Rodgers is going to see what's out there for him, is going to see what other teams might be interested in. And it should be everybody that needs a quarterback.
Yeah.
But it also comes down to the contract, the money. So let's see what Rodgers draws up, because the Broncos are going to be interested because they were rumored from the start of maybe trading for him. That other quarterback needy teams don't. I would say any team that needs a quarterback, Giants, if they're interested, they could be right into this race. Maybe Cleveland. Steelers. There's a lot of teams that are going to need quarterbacks. So I would be prepared for Rodgers to make all these different visits to all these different organizations, and he's going to pick his best option. I get it, Mike. If I'm Rodgers, his best option would probably stay in Green Bay. But we know that there's a little bit of a rift between him and the front office and the money situation. I just don't know if he's going to be comfortable staying in Green Bay.
Right, I'm sure they're going to try and exhaust as many options as they can to try and keep him
sure.
there.
For sure.
But we'll see. Again, and like you said, the excitement we're going to see this offseason, we're hearing now too that the Texans are probably going to have a trade deal open by March, or I think it is, or something like that. So they're saying that March 16th they want to be able to have this all set up before
free agency starts.
So
they want to consummate a trade and move on from Deshaun Watson. So, listen, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and
I
some
just
of those
can't
teams
wait.
that are up there, too, they're not exactly looking for quarterbacks, too. I'd say Jets have some high picks. Jacksonville, they've got their quarterback.
They got their quarterback. Jets got their quarterback.
And again, if you look at the Texans that pick right by where the Giants are, I think they like Davis Mills right now. I don't think they go for one of those quarterbacks. They might, but I don't know. I think they might ride with what they have even right now.
I honestly, if you've seen the production that Davis Mills has been able to display, he's won some games. You know what I mean? He's shown enough in my eyes to be the next starter for Houston. So they could just build around him now. More weapons, better offensive line, running backs. I mean, well, no, they got tons of those. Never mind. But defensively, they're going to have to rebuild because we know a lot of big names have moved on from Houston. So, yeah, it's definitely a rebuild year for Houston, and they're not going to be pressured into taking a quarterback this year. We'll say that. And for a lot of teams that do need quarterback, this is a bad year. In terms of getting that answer for your team, because unlike any other season, there isn't really that. I mean, everyone's going to point to Cody Pickett. I get
Kenny
it,
Pickett, yeah,
but he's not considered like. I know he's the number 1 rated quarterback, but he's not like Peyton Manning realm, Andrew Luck realm. You know what I mean? Phillip Rivers. When he was coming out, like. He's not. There's no quarterback that's like, holy shit, this guy is must-have, number 1 overall, number 2 overall, something like that, to a magnitude of where he's going to change your franchise. He's the answer. So that kind of scares me if I'm a quarterback-needy team right now going into the draft and going to be pressured into possibly taking one of these quarterbacks and hoping that they pan out.
Absolutely. And Mike Tackett said here, a lot of teams out here playing hard. They might have a different quarterback next season. We're not sure. But you know what? It is playoffs time.
Playoffs?
Yeah, that's right.
Talk about playoffs?
Yeah.
You kidding
I mean,
me?
playoffs.
Playoffs?
And that brings up a thing that I was thinking about, and that is looking at some of the teams that made the playoffs last season, but really underwhelmingly performed this year to where I think they're one of those disappointing teams. So I tried to figure out what was one of the most disappointing teams, the biggest disappointment out there for me, and it is the Cleveland Browns. I mean, you take a look at a team that was able to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs last year, and they're like, yes, there we go, milestone. Moving forward, we got Baker Mayfield, we got Nick Chubb, we got Kareem Hunt, we've got, Odell Beckham Jr., all these guys, the defense is playing top. Like, this is great. And so then we end up going with them really high coming into the season, thought they were going to get it done. Like you said, you had all the personnel. You have it all there. And Big Ben on the downward slide. They didn't go offensive line. They got a running back here, too. Some of the other teams, too, that are in that division, again, just it seemed like it was their time to make it. They were driving forward another year in this Kevin Stefanski offense. And this year, yes, they've dealt with a lot of the things that other teams have dealt with, but overall, again, they should be able to fight through it with the personnel that they have, and they've just been really underwhelmingly performing. Baker Mayfield, even, the fact that he's been out there and trying to play despite the injuries that he's had, which I think has really hindered this team too, because he's made some poor decisions out there, and the way he's throwing the ball could be effective to the way his injuries are with his arm, his shoulder, his ribs, and
all the more reason
to even just, you could have even rested him. I think you could have got by with Case Keenum out there and maybe even still cracked the playoffs. And then Baker Mayfield comes back for the playoffs. You got everybody healthy, and then you can move forward. But now it's said and done to where people are questioning even whether Baker Mayfield is worth it or not. So that's where you are. Now, again, time and time again, the Cleveland Browns have drafted quarterbacks. We've seen it 20-some-odd seasons or something like that, overall, number 1 pick, and fail. Looks like they have the guy here, and now years later, they're scratching their head and saying, well, I don't know now anymore. I'm not so sure.
And that's the thing is, for Baker Mayfield as a leader of this offense for the Cleveland Browns, if you're that hurt, you being out there to try to so-called tough it out and just kind of like grind through your injuries and try to make something of it, just sit the fuck down. You're hurting your team more than you are helping them. When there's a reason why the Browns went out and they got a guy like Case Keenum.
Sit down.
Very simple. Case Keenum healthy is even better than you are healthy, Baker. It's been proven this year. When Case Keenum came in and you missed the game, he actually flourished in this offense. Actually took him to a win. And going down towards the end of the season, him being banged up, his shoulder was hurting, his legs, everything about him was just, he was falling apart physically. And for Baker Mayfield to be like, oh, I'll tough it through. I can still make all the throws. I can still make things happen. But you actually hindered your team going down the stretch. And instead of saying, okay, Case, here, you got this. I'll support you. I'm too banged up to make a difference. You decided to take the stubborn route, the selfish route. And in turn, it hurt the organization. Hey, if Case Keenum was able to play more games, maybe this Browns team would be right in the playoffs. Just saying. It's a possibility. Not definite, but definitely a possibility. And I feel like it would have been a better possibility for the Cleveland Browns if Case Keenum was the quarterback this season. And you know what? They had the defense. They have an offensive line. They got weapons to throw to. They got a hell of a backfield. I mean, with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt this year, anything but winning the division was a failure. So, for the Cleveland Browns, I have to agree with Jim on this one. They are definitely one of these teams that are the biggest disappointment this year. A lot of people, especially Browns fans, had high hopes this year for this organization, and they fell flat on their face.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you talk about the difference here, if you look at the past 6 weeks after he ended up getting his injury, he was out. So if you look at it before that, he's got 2 touchdowns, no interception. Keeps going. The touchdowns are greater than turnovers. After his injury and he decides to come back after that week off, he's got 1 pick, 1 touchdown. Two picks, 1 touchdown. Then 1 touchdown. Then 2 picks and a touchdown. Then finally, the last 2 weeks of the season, 2 touchdowns, 4 picks, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Those turnovers are the decider in the game. Why they end up losing some of those games. You've had Nick Chubb, even though even Kareem Hunt wasn't in some of those, Nick Chubb's running over 100 yards, 130 yards in a game. Your defense is keeping the game close, and you can't win still. And it's because of quarterback play. And that's a problem, and that's why the Cleveland Browns are where they are right now, and that's why it's, again, for a team I thought was on the rise, they have fallen from grace quite quickly. Who has not fallen into grace with us is one of our OG know-it-alls in the house, Albert Alvarez.
What's going on, Albert?
Alvarez in the house with us tonight.
There's a sighting.
Woo.
Holy smokes, bro.
Yes.
It's been a long time.
Absolutely.
Welcome back.
Welcome back
to the
buddy.
show.
Yes, let's give it an applause for Albert Alvarez.
Albert. What's going on, homie?
He is the admin for NFL Talk All 32. That's right, one of the groups that we are part of, and a pleasure to be a part of, and big fans of. And if you guys haven't joined that group yet, it's a great NFL Talk group. So NFL Talk All 32, check it out, become a member there too, and enjoying the beautiful community that is NFL Talk All 32. He says, Happy New Year to us. Happy New Year to you as well.
You too, bro.
Hopefully we can maybe see each other sometime soon after everything that's been going on with the world.
Right.
We do plan on making trips to try and visit our know-it-alls out there across the globe here. But he says the team that was the biggest disappointment in his damn mind is the Texans. Are you kidding? Bad year? What up, my family? He says, yeah, but the Texans, but you know what, Joe? I think it's on the other side. If you want to look at the Texans on the other side of the spectrum, that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it as glass half full for them. Because you and I, when we talked about it before the season, we're like, this may be the worst team in the league right now. Mm-hmm. With the decisions they had made to keep Bill O'Brien way too long, the things that he did, and then move on to a new GM. Deshaun Watson doesn't want to be there, says I'm not part of the decisions. I hate you guys. I want out. Can't find guys to come there. They've got 3 different running backs. You don't know who's going to run the ball back there. So you're not sure with quarterback 4. So you're like, what is going on? J.J. Watt's gone. You're losing other guys on your defense. You're like, what the hell, dude? You just look like you're in trouble. And for some of those wins that they've had that they pulled out, and even some that they lost that were just they're in it, that last game where it was Titans and Texans, they look like they were meant it to be like, hey, this is like the old Houston Oilers battle that they try to make it out to be. Here we go, the Houston Oilers, now the Titans, but the Texans right here, the Houston team, they were straight balling out there, and they were looking pretty scary in that game. And for them to perform like they have, I think despite thinking about what kind of personnel they had, I think they did fairly well.
Absolutely. I mean, especially down the stretch, with Davis Mills coming in and performing as well as he has. To me, the biggest disappointment isn't the Texans, the players. It's the organization. The front office has been a huge letdown for Texans fans out there. For them to, allow Bill O'Brien, who once was the head coach, to be also the GM for one, and two, for him to make such horrible decisions to get rid of a lot of their talent via trade for peanuts and not have any kind of, not being held to a higher standard from the front office, from the ownership. They moved on from Bill O'Brien and said, okay, you've kind of really ruined our team a little bit, so now it's time to move on from you, and then it's like bad decision after bad decision, I feel like, for Houston. When we thought it was going to be, all right, they're going to rebuild, they're going to get stronger, they still have Deshaun Watson, so they just got to make a few tweaks here and there, and then they can be right in this thing. Oh, my God. It's disappointment after disappointment with this organization. And I feel for the Texans fans. I really do, because this team was on the rise. When they already had the quarterback in Deshaun Watson, they had Hopkins. They had a nice nucleus of players to build this organization and become that Super Bowl caliber or at least playoff contender every season. And now it's all gone just like that because of poor decision making. And I would even say this past off season when they hired their new coach, everybody was wondering they're not waiting for Eric Bieniemy. They're not going to interview a few other candidates that people say that are relative. They hire Culley, formerly an assistant of the Baltimore Ravens, a guy that's been around the league for quite some time. However, he's been just an assistant. He's done special teams. He's done wide receivers coaching. The guy has never once been a coordinator and never once has any head coaching experience. What the fuck are you guys doing? So, I mean, when you look at what this organization is now, they're a shell of themselves. And I, for one, as a football fan, cannot believe how far down Houston has gone. And now they've gone so far to the point where Deshaun Watson, their prized possession, wants out. He does no longer want to play for the Houston Texans and can't wait to play in a different uniform. So, Houston, we have a problem, and I'm very sorry to the fans out there.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying. And you know what, though? It's kind of funny. There you go. He says he agrees with you, Joe DeCapita. Damn shame. His organization or joke, damn Cal McNair and Jack Esterby are like Dumb and Dumber. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that's kind of overshadowed these guys, so a lot of people forgot about what's going on in the disorganization that's going on with these guys, enter the Washington football team. And what's going on with them? Dan Snyder and the mistreatment of women there in the organization, the emails that were leaked to try and destroy the Raiders organization too as well, and some of that stuff. And then COVID takes over the whole thing and everybody forgets about everything. But meanwhile, you had all this stuff going on with this organization. And everybody kind of just not talk about it anymore. Kind of forgot about it. They're like not even in the headlines anymore. Now that if season's going to be coming pretty soon, I think some of the conversation is going to be kicked up again. Now that you're talking about the trading Deshaun Watson, but everybody kind of just forgot about what was going on inside this organization and how disruptive it was and how inorganized and the problems that they had within themselves too. So I think Washington football team kind of helped with that and shuffled it to the side and kind of masked some of that there too. But it might come back a little bit here in this offseason here.
For sure.
So that's why I think, that was kind of a long-winded saying, you're saying you're the biggest disappointment. I don't know. Overall, again, these guys are a bad organization, but I think the team, like you said, the players, I think really surprised me this season with what they did and pulled out some nice, strong wins. You know what I mean?
Despite all the subtraction off of this roster, they still have some young, very talented players. So that's at least something to look forward to.
And that's the thing. And coming from a guy who, again, has watched my New York Giants again, seems like they don't even show up to play. They have your Texans, I think, had some good wins.
Definitely.
Even I look at the Jets now, and I'm almost jealous of even what they've got going on with some of the bigger wins that they have done. They've beaten teams like the Titans and things like that. They played hard against Tom Brady for a half, and then again losing that game. But I want to play hard.
So for Houston, that's the reason why I don't consider Houston the biggest disappointment, because we already saw how it just wasn't going to look too well this season. There was too much change, too much turnover, and a lot of bad decisions from the front office. So that's why we kind of said, maybe they're not the biggest disappointment, because we already kind of expected it.
All right, Joe. So I did my Cleveland Browns, in a disappointment. Now I know Albert had his, but who's your biggest disappointment, you think, as a team this year?
My biggest disappointment is the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like this is a team that's, since Lamar Jackson has been established as the quarterback and has improved every single season, I felt like this was a team. And listen, the Baltimore Ravens defense last year was really good. They were top 10. And I felt like, okay, another year of some of these young players maturing, developing, getting better. Man, this Baltimore defense looks pretty lethal this season. And then you pair that up with the offense and Lamar Jackson and their running game and Lamar Jackson's, escapability and how hard he is to bring down in the open field and or makes people miss. And now his arm is getting better, so he's able to make some more throws. There was a lot to like about this Ravens team coming into this season. And I thought for sure that maybe Baltimore might once again win the division and kind of go into the playoffs and maybe stir the pot a little bit. But wow, so much has changed this season. It's astonishing to me to see how successful Baltimore has been, and not had a lot of turnover in terms of the roster, to the point where they have the same pieces there, but the results have been way different this season, and they didn't even make the playoffs this year. Got to be concerned. I think they're dead last in the division, if I'm not mistaken. And for that to have a team that in this division, like the Baltimore Ravens, to be so successful, to be one of those up and coming franchises, to be one of those playoff contenders, to now bottom base floor. And the defense not waking up, not having a very good season, even though the pieces are still there. And yes, you could say, oh, well, injuries this, injuries that, COVID this, COVID that. Every team's faced it, and every team has found a way to win some games. So for Lamar Jackson, the games that he missed or whatever, this team should have came together. I felt it should have been better. Definitely should have had a better record than what they ended up with. And I felt that they should at least be maybe second, third at the worst, but still like kind of in contending with the way the AFC has been and how close it has been for the playoff race. I am absolutely surprised and shocked that the Ravens have not only missed the playoffs, but are also on the bottom of their own division.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah, look at that, the Ravens here. Yeah, they finished 7-5. They are out of the playoffs.
Are they last? Does it say that?
I just saw in the last one. I think it did say 4-4. I'll double check, because we're going to go through our picks from the preseason first in a little bit, just right after this segment.
I'll say right here.
So we'll get to see it right there. They are.
They are. Right.
And for a team, again, that was up and coming, the last two seasons, 13-2, 11-4, making the playoffs. Looks like they're going to be on the up and coming. Lamar Jackson, young star. A lot of the people are calling him the Lamar Jackson, or the Lamar Jackson. Of course, they're going to call him Lamar Jackson. the LeBron James, of the NFL. That's what I meant, the other L word. But again, you see the difference. Look at this season now. They're 7-5. You look at Lamar Jackson here. He went off of a game from the last 2 seasons. He was 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in 2019. 2020, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. This season, 16 touchdowns and 13 INTs. And if you look at the attempts, a little bit more than last season. He had more passing attempts. We've seen him pass a little more this season. And that's what I think has changed a little bit with some of these guys that you saw.
Right.
And it seems like where he looked like he was starting to kind of get that accuracy down and get some of this together. A lot of missed throws and missed opportunities for them on here. But even though despite that and still being able to have the 3rd-ranked rushing offense in the league, really didn't get it done here offensively. And like you said, that defense, who has been pretty tight there, and the Baltimore Ravens been known for defense, falling short and coming up as only, I think, they're 25th overall in defense here this season, and that's a big problem for them. And like you said, I can agree with you on being a disappointment for them because they, again, were another team that was trending upwards. And this season, we saw them multiple times. We saw them in tight games. I brought it up earlier. They should have lost that game to Detroit. They lost to Miami. They lost to a couple other games that you're kind of like, if you're a good team, you got to be able to lock it up against some of these teams like this. And they weren't able to, and then there were a lot of tight, close ones that really shouldn't be. And if you're one of those great teams, you really got to prove it. And now you've got other teams like the Bengals and stuff stepping up, and maybe now they're the new up-and-coming team.
And going back to Lamar Jackson, a lot of those throws that he was making, even though there's more attempts, it almost looked like it was forced by Lamar. There was a lot
to stay in the pocket.
A lot of throws that he was trying to attempt to make, they just weren't there. It was into double coverage. It was overthrown footballs. So this offense wasn't predicated around Lamar Jackson's throwing arm. It was more about his legs and their running game in the backfield. They need to get back to that for next season in order to get right back to their winning ways and contend for the top of the division.
Right. If you look at those stats, he only played 12 games this season so far too. So even look at those touchdowns to pick ratio. That's pretty bad for 12 games. And if you look at his backup that he's had in there, Huntley, he played pretty well for even a backup. Running the same type of offense, and they looked good. And so I can understand if you're saying that Lamar didn't even get the chance to play all season, but even when he was in some of those games, just didn't look altogether very good right now, and it seemed like he was trending in the backwards direction.
So there you have it. Baltimore Ravens left out in the cold. And speaking of being out in the cold, does your furnace need to be replaced? Do you need some filters, something like that? Johnstone Supply in Troy, New York are the guys to go to. The men and women there are phenomenal. Listen, they're there to make sure your home is ready for the cold months. I mean, listen, we're already dealing with it. Yesterday, I was doing deliveries up north, and it was like -2.
Yeah.
It's cold
Plus
out there.
the wind chill.
So it's insane.
Dude, my hands are cracking, and I'm not even doing anything.
Listen, they're family-owned and operated business that has been helping upstate New Yorkers for decades. Visit their store on 6th Avenue in Troy, New York. For more information on how they can help you this winter, make sure you hit them up. From anybody from George, Tom, and the rest of the staff, they're looking forward to helping you guys. Follow them on Facebook or give them a phone call even.
Yeah, use the phone. That's
518-272-5922. That's 518-272-5922. Those are the guys to call to. They are the cold professionals. Johnstone Supply in Troy, New York. Even if you're from out of state, they have other locations. So I know for sure they have a location in Florida. So, Mike, we know that you live down there. Maybe you can hit them up as well. But, yeah, those are the guys that they can also help with your AC, your cooling. If you're in Florida and it's hot and 85 or whatever, they can help you there too.
Let them know that you heard about it from Football on the No Show. That's right. Let them know. That's where they heard it from. All right. So next up, Joe, again, a lot of different disappointing teams here. We've talked about it. We thought it'd be fun to take a look back at now our picks that we did in the preseason and kind of see how we did, I think, after all, when we looked at the divisions.
Yeah,
and see where they lined up.
Mind you, these guessing the divisions before the season even got here. So we didn't have any kind of advantage, watched a couple of weeks and then said, okay, now let's figure out who we think are going to. So we're going off of basically the off season, what kind of moves were made, what kind of changes were made of each roster, and did our best educated guesses on where we thought the season was going to end up for each team.
Absolutely. So let's take a look. Let's start off with the NFC East here, Joe. Let's go with your picks here. And you had the Washington football team and the New York Giants, then the Eagles, and then the Cowboys sitting in dead last, Joe.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how this is almost flip-flopped this season and how it ended up being?
Yeah, and a lot of this has all changed because of injuries.
Mm-hmm.
You think of Ryan Fitzpatrick, that's what I was riding on.
Big time.
I thought, Ryan Fitzpatrick, him as the quarterback for Washington, and how impressive their defense was from the previous year. I thought for sure that this team was going to not only lock it down defensively, but the offense was going to improve with Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm. So that was a surprise when he went down. I knew this was going to be shot. And for the Giants to not improve from the last season, to not make that change, and especially Daniel Jones, you're only as good as your quarterback. And yes, the Giants' defense got better, but their offense didn't get better. Even with Barkley healthy in the backfield and Daniel Jones making bad decision after bad decision, it kind of really crippled the chance for the Giants to even be relevant.
Yeah,
And
and then if you look at my picks here, too, if we just take a pick at them, too, I had the Washington football team, then the Cowboys and the Giants and the Eagles, and I was thinking the same thing kind of you were on an aspect of the Giants move up a little bit, not as much as what you might have thought, but again, I was hopeful that you're going to move on. Washington, they looked a lot better again, I think, as having Ryan Fitzpatrick there. I thought that was the right guy to try to get them to move forward. But, again, injury right in the beginning, and they never really had a shot to see what he could do for them. Taylor Heineke played really well for them right now, so they might have something there. But, yeah, again, and that defense looked different in the beginning of the season, too, as well. And the Eagles, I think, overall, again, it has kind of been a surprise for me, too. Maybe I just always dog the Eagles every season because I just don't believe them altogether. But I had them last. And now, what did you think that they're one of the playoff team here? And they also have, I think, a first-round pick there, looking pretty good for them as well, too, because their record really isn't very good. So that's how bad, the NFC has been this season. So So there you go. So let's take a peek now at our AFC East here, Joe, what we did. This is what you picked right here, and this is how it laid out. There you go. We had this one like right on spot here with this one. Let's see what I did. I think I did the same exact thing here. Yeah, the same exact picks here. So we did good on this one there. We ended up getting this one right spot on time. So
it was it was kind of easy because the Jets, we figured were going to end up last because they're still rebuilding. They got a new quarterback. It's rare for a rookie quarterback to come in and make such a dramatic impact to where they're going to just be, they're going to win a lot more games. So that was the best guess on the Jets. And then for the Dolphins, we know that they're kind of that team where they have talent, they're almost ready to compete, but they're just not quite there yet. That's why we felt that they would be third. And then the Patriots, they drafted a rookie. And Matt Jones, and definitely thought he was the absolute perfect pick for the Patriots for their next quarterback. And in turn, especially with what the Patriots did in the offseason, did a very uncharacteristic thing. And that's, one, spend a lot of money on free agents, and two, didn't trade down in the draft. Instead, they just sat tight and just picked the best player at each pick. So they nailed it in the draft. They nailed it in free agency and completely turned this organization around to be competitive once again, but not enough to win the division. They were close. Within a game. They were very close, but the Bills end up getting the win over the Patriots and kind of riding out 11-6 to get that divisional crown.
Yeah, I agree with you. Same thing. We saw the Buffalo Bills taking that step forward because they were just had that momentum going. This season it did get scary there too. That the way the Patriots have been moving, they did go with the guy that we wanted. It was kind of funny that they traded back and they were still able to get Mac Jones, the guy which we thought fit best for their team, and it's working out really well. So now they've made that playoff run, which we expected them to do. But now the pressure's on again. You get to see the Buffalo Bills. So earlier on on in the season, we got to see what they did to the Bills, just ran the ball embarrassingly against them, just said, hey, we're going to keep doing it until you stop it, and they just never could in that bad wintry game. So then when they got to face each other again, the Buffalo Bills just came through and smacked them back in the face, and now we're even, dead even, and now they get to face off in the playoffs. It's going to be glorious when we get to check that one out. But again, Mac Jones, rookie quarterback in the playoffs. Is he going to be able to pull some magic here and take out the Buffalo Bills, one of the best teams in the AFC right now? That would be stupendous for the Patriots. But when we looked at it in the beginning of the season again, you can't hold the Patriots down and Bill Belichick too long. This was the right move for them, and it looks like they pulled it off. Again, Brian Flores, they had the moves going. It looked like they were progressing forward. Now, after this, we'll see who they go with the head coach and see what happens with them. That may determine where it goes for that particular franchise. But then the Jets, again, we saw them being the last. I think everybody else kind of did that too. Just get rookie quarterback, new coach, new, everything, trying to get it going. There's going to be some rough patches. And, hopefully we just want to see that they would grow. All right, so now, Joe, taking a look back here at the NFC. We looked at the NFC East. Now, let's look at, what is this, the NFC North, right? NFC North here. North. We've got the Green Bay Packers. For some reason, I took your name off of there, but there you go. That's Joe's
fine.
Picks right there.
That's
I just
fine.
wanted to erase Joe's name for some reason. I don't know why. I got crazy with it in the eyeballs all the time. There you go. There's Joe's Picks. He went with the Green Bay Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears, and the Lions. And how did they win off?
Exactly that
today. Yeah. So we got that one correct as well too. Or you did at least. There you go. Let's see who I have. I have the same exact thing. It's just shifted over a little bit. But, yes, I have the same exact thing here, too, for them. The Green Bay Packers, they get back to it again, and now they're the number one seed in the NFC, so they're riding high. They got half of a game to rest, and now a full week's of rest here to sit back and watch this wild card. And for the Vikings, even to these types of teams here and still not make the playoffs here and not get it done, that's a surprise for me. I saw the Vikings here making it here, but I thought for sure they would have been one of those playoff teams again, and they didn't get it done.
Yeah, I mean, and this was kind of like an easier division to pick because obviously Aaron Rodgers and the Packers with Devontae Adams and everything that they had at their disposal, we thought it was easy. They were going to win this division. There was a lot of, like the Detroit Lions, definitely rebuild mode, didn't have Stafford anymore, didn't really give them a huge shot of winning a lot of games. And the Packers, we knew that they were going to move on and get a new quarterback and a lot of different transitions and variables to to get over in order to get back to winning. So that division was kind of simpler to pick.
All right, here we go. Let's move on to the next one here. We got the AFC here. Was that AFC North, right, or is that South? South. AFC South. We got Joe's got the Colts, the Titans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and there you go. There's the Houston Texans there. The Houston Texans end up finishing before the Jaguars
by one game.
The Colts end up dropping right out of this thing, but they went into the third slot and still bumped out of the playoffs here. So, Joe, a little swap in there where we're at with the way they finished. But
the Colts finished second, and the Titans finished first. So, basically, that's a swap, and then the bottom two were swapped.
Yeah, bottom two are swapped. Here's what I got right here. I have the Titans first. I have the Colts there, so I got those two right, and then the bottom two swapped. So we thought, again, like we talked about this with Albert here, we said we looked at the Texans, and we just didn't expect a whole lot. We thought even maybe although I wasn't a big fan of Urban Meyer, I didn't think they were going to do very well. I still didn't think they were going to be last in this division. They
definitely should have done better.
And then there you go. Now he's not even there anymore. He was the first coach to be gone. So there you go. There's the AFC North there. Anything to talk about with them, Joe? Are you surprised about even the Colts here? Because you picked them to pick first here. Anything that's going on with them?
Because, again, we talked about the Colts, and I said it's going to be predicated on Taylor. It's really what it's going to come down to because Carson Wentz wasn't going to be the quarterback enough to be able to carry that team. So when Taylor started to get,
stuffed a little bit, just like in that Jacksonville game,
Wentz couldn't deliver. So that's why they were sick. That's why they ended up sitting second and not on top of the division.
All right, moving on. We've got the NFC South here, and that's he's got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Carolina Panthers, the Saints, and then the Falcons. I think you're swapping the Saints with the Carolina Panthers, right? And the Panthers, they didn't finish last, right? I still think it was the
Panthers were last.
Were they last?
Yes.
And then so we got the Panthers last, Falcons right there, and then the Saints here. So let's take a look at mine quick. And I've got the Bucks, the Saints, the Panthers, and then the Falcons there. So a little bit off here on the Falcons. Again, we were a little down on the Falcons, but again, they didn't play real well. We saw the difference in not having somebody like Julio Jones there. It seemed like the offense, we weren't sure what was going to go on with Arthur Smith at the helm. We're still not even sure in an example
I'm
really
exactly
what's
sure
going
of
on.
what's going on.
Like, it was kind of funny because we thought maybe Mike Davis be a little more involved, but they went all Cordarrelle Patterson. It's just put it all in his hands. Let this guy be the whole multi-tool that he could be, not only just on special teams, but in the running game as well, a little bit in the receiving. And really, the offense revolved a lot around him. And this to have Matty Ice trying to be that type of guy just to get it out to some of these other weapons, that's one of the things I think they kind of faltered on. I think he's kind of taking a step back this season.
I wouldn't say Matt Ryan take a step back. I mean, the reason for Cordarrelle Patterson's emergence is because he was the better player. Mike Davis was supposed to be the starting running back, wasn't getting it done, and Cordarrelle Patterson is just more explosive, faster, and quite honestly, he's more physical, which is surprising because I thought for sure Davis coming from the Panthers over to Atlanta was going to be an amazing acquisition for them, and instead didn't really turn out to be that. Instead, it was Cordarrelle Patterson delivering running the football. And then, like you mentioned, his special teams play. And with, the rookie and Kyle Pitts, he came on slow. Early on in the season, he was kind of trying to get the grasp of everything, and then he didn't kick in until halfway through the season. So that team, we knew, had some missing pieces. Listen, no more Julio Jones this year. Calvin Ridley ended up taking a hiatus.
Yes.
And
taking off.
He's gone due to, mental reasons and what have you. So he disappeared. So I mean, they lost a couple of big weapons halfway through this. Well, Julio they lost early on, but Ridley's gone halfway through the season, and Kyle Pitts they had to rely on a lot. Other guys like Russell Gage, who really never amounted to anything, which was a surprise. I thought he was going to take a step forward and didn't. And honestly, this offense is still rebuilding. Their offensive line has improved, but maybe not enough. And honestly, Matt Ryan doesn't have enough weapons like he used to have. So with a team has a new coaching staff, new head coach, not enough weapons on offense, and defensively, they're still trying to rebuild that defense. Later on down the season, they looked like they started to strengthen up a little bit, gel a little bit. But again, they're still not there yet. So until this coaching staff brings in the players that they want to bring in and they start to develop new schemes that they're trying to work on, let's see what happens with the team going forward. I don't even know what Matt Ryan's future holds, because here's an aging quarterback who's commanding a lot of money. Is it time to move on from Matt Ryan? So, I mean, there's going to be that kind of debate, too, for Atlanta.
Yeah, definitely. And then you had the Carolina Panthers here at your second slot. What do you think went wrong here for the Panthers here in Matt Rule's squad? Do you think it was the fact that just first the injury with Sam Darnold or something, so they had to struggle and try and see what they had, and they bring in Cam Newton's. It worked for like a fourth quarter, and then the rest was all history here. And then besides that, they got P.J. Walker. So you really think it was just the fact that Sam Darnold got injured and they couldn't get it back together, and then maybe something that they could retool this season and move forward still with Sam Darnold and get it done? Or do you think now they just need to – the Sam Darnold experience did not work and they need to retool it and try to figure something else out?
Absolutely. It's just real simple. Sam Darnold, once he went down with an injury, and they were hot early on. Carolina was kind of like lighting up some teams. Defensively, we knew they had a pretty strong defense, which they added to that in the draft. And then offensively, when they bring in Sam Darnold, he kind of opened up this offense for Matt Rule. He started to deliver to DJ Moore. Not so much, what's his name? The wideout.
Robbie Anderson?
Robbie Anderson,
yeah.
Not so much Robbie Anderson was involved anymore because, to be honest, I feel like Sam Darnold was very comfortable with DJ Moore and throwing the ball to him. But nonetheless, that offense was really kind of taking on a personality where they could really attack you in the air and on the ground together, and that's what kind of where that Panthers team was really humming early on. And then as soon as Darnold left with an injury, and he was going to be out for several weeks, they bring in Cam, and just simply not the answer. And we already knew what Cam was. And if Cam isn't going to be used as that kind of dual threat, more of a mobile, threat than a passing threat, the offense just wasn't going to work, and it really didn't. And that's why when they started to trip over their own feet, and they started to get loss after loss after loss. And by the time Sam Darnold came back healthy, it was just too late, because Sam Darnold's coming back rusty a little bit. Maybe he's worried about that injury still this season. So a lot of things went wrong for Carolina early on, and that's kind of where they derailed.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So let's move on now to our picks for the AFC North here. And we've got the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, the Bengals, and the Steelers here. We had them dead last. You did, Joe.
Talk
here.
about Baltimore's disappointing team.
And that's what's funny. We both talk about the disappointments. And look at this. Look at my picks. I've got the Cleveland Browns here first, and then Baltimore. And I had the Steelers here at third, and then the Bengals at the bottom. So how wrong was I, too, as well, that this Bengals team, this Bengals squad, would really kind of get back in this one and get into this.
The division just basically got flipped upside down on its head.
Yep.
And wow, that's all you got to say. There's no words. Like, they just came apart. I really don't have any explanation for Baltimore or Cleveland. I don't know what went wrong there. Listen, Cleveland improved their defense even in the offseason. And then you would think that with Baker having, they moved on from Odell and all that, but still had Landry, still had some young talent there. Running backs behind them, like Kareem Hunt healthy again, Nick Chubb. Like, you would think, and a better offensive line, you would have thought, Cleveland's going to win this division, no doubt. And Baltimore, for them to have the same personnel where they used to conquer this division, or at least compete for this division with that same personnel and that younger defense, that they would also be, it would be between Cleveland and Baltimore. Who's going to win the division? Steelers, Big Ben's on his last leg. Juju got hurt this season too on top of that. So it's like all weak offensive line. We thought that for sure with the draft pick for Najee Harris instead of an offensive lineman early, that would really hamper this Steeler team. And Bengals, you got to give it up to the Bengals, because we didn't see them coming on as strong as they were this year, because there was some still kind of like rebuilding in a sense. Like, I wasn't 100% sure how good this offensive line was going to be for Joe Burrow, because he got injured last year. That was also the thing that kind of scared us a little bit, is his injury. How well can he come back from that injury? Can he continue where he left off? And that was a little bit concerning. But nonetheless, this division is just crazy. It just went all over.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. He came on strong, and that's what we got to see here, too, that running game, getting it going behind that offensive line. But, again, when we talked about the Bengals drafting Jamar Chase and what a big thing it was for him, that was really on full display after a rocky preseason, to where he's like, the football is a little different shaped or different, colors and stuff. It's messing me up, and he had a lot of drops. He really turned around and made it a bigger thing here, and they really connected. And with a Cleveland Browns team, like we said, about how disorganized they got and how bad it was, it took them sitting out Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon, I think, resting this last week for the Cleveland Browns to get a chance to beat these guys. So they felt that comfortable, like, let's just rest against Cleveland and we'll just move on into the playoffs. So that's what type of year it was for the Browns and the Bengals. So congratulations to the Bengals. I like it because I also like to see fresh teams in the playoffs too. I like it. Let's go on to that one. But now let's take a look at the NFC West now. I have got the Los Angeles Rams there. Let's see who I got here. Let's take a look at yours first here. We've got the Cardinals here first, the San Francisco 49ers, the Los Angeles Rams, and then the Seahawks start finishing there at last, Joe. That's what you've got. And I have the Cardinals, the Rams. I just got flip-flopped the 49ers and the Seahawks, or the Rams right there. So we were wrong a little bit on the Cardinals. We were right for most of the season. We were right there. But then just till the very end. Hurt. Yep, to the very end here.
So Kyler Murray got hurt.
even still, there's a lot of questions here with that Los Angeles Rams team that we kind of had with some of these guys. It's within a turnover or so that you're gonna change the momentum of the game or just even the decision of the game. So, I mean, that's going to be a really tough game in the playoffs moving forward, looking at that one. But the 49ers, what a fresh look for them to keep pushing forward despite injuries that they've had and things like that moving forward and making the playoffs here, playing tough here at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, and the strength of their team is their defense. I mean, that's really what's carrying this team. Jimmy G, we thought that he was going to come back. They were going to have a nice run because their offense was pretty good. They ran the ball, they mixed up some play action plays and what have you, did some jet sweeps, used Deebo Samuel as that utility tool that they like to do. And I thought for sure that the Niners would end up finishing second with the team that they have overall. The Rams, they improved their defense midway through the season. Trading for Von Miller, getting him, and then this team overall defensively getting better and better every single week, helping this Rams team end up winning the division. Seattle, we thought they're going to go through a little bit of a rebuild right now. Yes, we already know that they have Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and those are the big names. But after that, their offensive line was improved slightly from the previous year, and their defense just seems to be declining every single season. They haven't been able to rebuild that side of the ball. So that's where we had them last.
They are where they thought they were. So.
And the Cardinals, I'll say this. The Cardinals, if Kyler Murray doesn't get hurt, they win this division. That's simple. Because when he missed, I know 1 week they did get a win with him out, but then the next week they lost. Then the next week they lost. So
they got upset. I think it was to Detroit too. I think they really after that bye week, it just seemed like they were really lethargic, like trying to get it back going again.
Right. With that same skid, if Murray is healthy, I think they end up getting at least 2 more wins. And they're ahead in this division.
And despite even having the talent that they have, losing DeAndre Hopkins was a big part, I think, for them too as well, going into those losses. All right, next up and finally here for the AFC West, Joe had the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Broncos. He got that one dead nuts. That one, I think I'm a little off. I think I swapped the Chargers and the Raiders, and it looked good, I think, for me here. But again, for some reason, Brandon Staley just failed me miserably, I think, throughout this season. And with his stupid moves.
Also failed the Charger fans.
Yeah, and Charger fans as well. I mean, and that's what stinks. It's like, because that's a first-year coach, and it's almost like, man, is that enough to be a one and done for them? I don't think so. I mean, because they have done well, but, yeah, man, how to squander a season like that when you guys have it there. You know what I mean? You're trying to keep Mike Williams and Keenan Allen together and those guys and get it rocking and rolling. And you got Austin Eckler, who's been really, really running well, but also getting it done in the passing game. For you to squander some of those wins, give up points when you're there to take them, just take the points, and they don't. It's a big mistake for them. So there you go. That's where we are with the picks. We were close on some. We were dead on with some others, and some were off a little bit. But overall, I think not too bad. Not too bad.
A couple divisions was horrendous.
Yeah, a couple. We're good. But you know what's not horrendous? It's our guys here, Colorized, with 3 locations here in the capital region. You've got Queensbury, Clifton Park, Niskayuna. That's right, Colorized, the paint professionals. Not only are they your local Ben Moore dealership, but they also specialize in other finishes as well, PPG to name a few. They are the color specialists or professionals. That's right. Whether it's your do-it-yourselfer, out there redoing a little bit here, you just want to match some paint, go into a wall in a different room, redo the kids' room, whatever. Bring the sample to them. They know what they're doing. They've got the know-how. They've got the experience to help you out. Not like the box stores out there to just put Joe Schmo in there, that department for that one day. Go check them out. Talk to my man, Brett there in Niskayuna. Talk to Link up there in Queensbury. They'll get you straightened out. And also, if you are looking to do some remodeling, stuff like that too, they are also partnered, and so are we. It's a great big family with PPK, Paul Perry Kitchens. That's right. They're in Scotia Glenville, Freeman's Bridge Road. If you need your kitchen done, bathroom, whatever, they've got it all. They do all phases, not only your kitchen, your bathrooms as well with the cabinets, but countertops too as well, Corian, granite, quartz, and now they've got their closets, custom closets, and glass doors for your showers too as well. So you want to get that crazy custom shower with the jets and the spray, but then get the glass for it as well. Dude, they've got it all. Check them out with 2 locations, 2 of them on Freeman's Ridge Road. Check them out. It's free. It's a Perry Kitchen. Check it out, ppk.com. Go checking them out right there in Freeman's Bridge Road. Tell them Football on the Nose sent you. And again, they use colorized products too as well. So why not two different professionals working together as a family to put out an excellent product? That's right. I'm talking about an excellent product. We're talking about Jim and Joe and Football on the Nose show. That's right. You guys, we thank you so much for everything that you guys have been doing for us, all of our sponsors out there. It's hope for a great year this year moving forward. And I want to shout out to Steve Murray out there, who's been doing good with EA Originals and doing stuff now. He's going to be doing a live stream on Twitch, I think, on Thursday for his game, Knockout City. So he's going to be playing Knockout City and answering questions there on Twitch. So check out Knockout City and their Twitch channel for our man, Steve Murray, who does our voiceover for our show, who's really stepping up and doing a lot of big things here. Shout out to him and all of the New Orleans out there, and thank you so much for doing what you do. And we've got No Donnie in the house with us tonight. He says, what's up, guys? Go Big Red, rise up, Red Sea. Yeah, and dude, it was scary a little bit for these guys, though, There is No Donnie in the house with us tonight. Go Cardinals, LA is in trouble. Yeah, we'll see, again, because it's tough when those guys play each other. What Matthew Stafford is going to be showing up. Is he going to be throwing the touchdowns, or is he going to do a few, but then he's got to give you that pick six every now and then, or that dumb bonehead mood. But that Cardinals offense, though, we've seen them get stuffed at times to where they try and contain Kyler Murray, and he's made mistakes of his own as well.
Unlike the regular season, this is a playoffs. It's all different now. It's a new ball game. Very different. Both teams are going to be coming ready to play, and they're ready to execute. So, yes, I don't even know. Hopkins is definitely done, right?
Yeah, I think
he's
so.
done for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have a shot to come back. So, I fully expect all these teams in the playoffs to bring their A game. Listen, the time for mental mistakes can't exist right now. So both teams are going to come correct. They're going to be ready to go. Cardinals in LA, I think, is going to be a huge battle. Huge battle.
Yeah, absolutely. No, excuse me. Sorry. Talking about the playoffs here, let's look at the playoff picture here and what we're looking at here. This is brought to you by the NFL.com here. And it shows here we got the Raiders and Bengals, and then the Buffalo Bills, Patriots, the Steelers. How about them? They have to face KC. KC was sitting there at that number one spot comfortably, and then here come the Titans moving in. So now the Titans, just like that, within a week, they get that resting up week. And now the Steelers, like you said earlier, have to run into the Kansas City Chiefs. It sucks for them.
Yeah, the Titans managed to lock it up with that win that they had last week, holding on to that number one seed. Now the Chiefs definitely have to play. I know it's against the Steelers, and everyone's going to expect, us included, that the Chiefs come away with the win. But listen, if this season is any indicator, there's no guarantees. So we'll wait and see for that one. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, but Mikey,
No
Donnie, he's excited about the Cardinals and the Rams.
He said, yeah, they said realistic timeline NFC Championship game for Hopkins, so he can come back.
He can
as long as the Cardinals make it to the championship game.
Absolutely. And then you've got the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers, and then the Philadelphia Eagles who sneak into the playoffs here. Against Tampa again, and they've played Tampa early on the season and played tough for them for a little while too as well. So they're hanging tough.
That's an interesting matchup.
So that could be interesting there for them too, because we've seen the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now that they've lost some of their weapons, and it's funny how people describe franchise quarterbacks. You've got the aura around Tom Brady, makes everybody that much better, but a lot of the narration we're hearing, or the dialogue here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, are like, oh, man, they lost. They don't have Antonio Brown now, and so he's off the team. Losing Chris Godwin, that was a big thing. So now they're struggling for weapons, and I can't get it done. I'm like, dude, if you can't get it done with Mike Evans, and even the way Scotty Miller has been playing, you've got Cameron Brate there still, and O.J. Howard still. You've got weapons to float around, and still Rob Gronkowski. You can't be complaining about not having weapons, especially, again, if you're talking about how great Tom Brady is here, the general himself, the greatest of all time. He should be able to get it done, but really this offense is kind of sluggish a little bit right now.
The one thing, too, is that they are getting more players back. So they are going to get Gio Bernard. They're going to get Levante David, and they're also big. And they're also going to get back the other running back that they have, the biggest name of all of them.
Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette, yeah.
Leonard Lloyd.
But just like you were saying, like Antonio Brown, they're making a bigger deal. I don't think that's that big of a deal. Yes, Brown, don't get me wrong, has been playing great for them. However, Scotty Miller's no slouch. I feel like he's going to have a huge game in the playoffs because opposite Evans, listen, everyone's going to double team Evans. It's a given. It's going to be up to everybody else to step up.
And they should, especially when you get closer to that goal line, because that's when he's a big threat for those guys
Rob
too as
Gronkowski.
well. All right, so we're going to be talking about it. It's the playoff picture. That's right. Let's take a look at the competition. Here it is with Joe and I. It's neck and neck still. I picked a lot of the same last week to try and stay with Joe here, so it's coming down to the playoffs, baby. It's all for this one. So right now it looks like I'm losing. I'm going to be drinking this thing full of liquor the week after the Super Bowl. It's going to be a hell of a show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Wait till you guys see me with a buzz on. It's going to be entertaining as much as you know that one. That one's going to be fun. But who knows? We got a lot of weeks here, or a few weeks left over at least. So with Joe, let's get to it. Let's look at that playoff picture. Let's look at seeing no Donnie's with us. Let's go look at the NFC first and that Cardinals and that Rams game. What do you got in this one?
This one, listen, I've been riding the coattails of the Cardinals since before the season even started. I said they were going to win the division. They came up a little bit short, but I feel like that was part of not having Kyler Murray for a few weeks. And now that he's back, now that he's 100%, I feel like this team is going to come together defensively. Listen, they're going to get J.J. Watt back. Their team is coming into the playoffs healthier, minus Hopkins, but I feel like they're going to do enough to get this win here. This is an interdivision rival. This is going to be nuts. I feel like this is going to be one of those great games down to the wire, but I got Cardinals coming out with the win.
All right. I would like to pick the Cardinals in here. I think I really like them in this situation here. But, again, I am down by a few games here. I'm going to get nutty in this wild card playoff here. So I'm going to go with the Rams here on this one just to be different here. And we'll see what happens. Maybe I can get a game back here on Joe. All right, next up we've got the San Francisco 49ers. I really like the 49ers in this one. They're really playing tough here and coming here, like you said, and a lot of it's that defense. And that Dallas Cowboys, again, the defense was playing well at times, and they're stepping up, and you got to give Dan Quinn credit, but also the fact that they went and they drafted Micah Parsons here. That's the guy. This is the problem when you talk about being a Giants fan and the issues that you have. Joe and I had picked them to pick Micah Parsons early on in that draft, last season, and when they get Kadarius Toney and stuff, yeah, he's got some flashy moves here and there, but Micah Parsons was there for you to grab. It would have fit the system right, and look at what he's doing right now in the NFL. He's looking pretty scary, and we're still looking for that edge rusher that we need, and he was there right there for us. Another big mistake. But the Cowboys looking good on defense. Offense still doesn't look like they're really clicking. I don't really get it. You got all these weapons here, all these guys to dish it out to, and Dak Prescott's the most accurate quarterback here and there and this and that, but really not really surprising me so much here. What do you got in this game, Joe?
I got the 49ers because I just like how they've been playing down the stretch. Their defense is healthier. Their defense is strong. Their offense is hitting on all cylinders, really. Kyle Shanahan's doing a phenomenal job right now with this offense coming into the playoffs. He's got them all dialed in, and I just like the Niners. I like how they got all this momentum coming into the playoffs. They're playing much better now, and the Cowboys have been struggling as of late. So their offense can't seem to put points up on the board, and despite their defense's success, they're just not able to get it done. So I got the Niners in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about doing a Cowboys just to be different here, to try and catch a game. But again, being a Giants fan too as well, and believing what I'm seeing here, I don't really see the Cowboys, even though they are the third seed, moving all in on this, and I'm not buying it. I really like the momentum that the 49ers are bringing. Mm-hmm. I like how the fact that they are able to win despite injuries too as well, having Jimmy G in there, then Trey Lance, and Jimmy G, Trey Lance, having multiple injuries at running back, but still getting the running game going, whether it be with Deebo Samuel or the other backs that they have.
Mitchell.
I really like what's going on with Kyle Shanahan and that coaching staff. He's doing a good job this year. And like you said, that defense, they're all fully healthy here and playing well. I like the 49ers here as well with this one, Joe. All right, now we've got the Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa at home. The Eagles, again, they've been a nice story for some of the stuff they've done this season. Played really hard. It seemed like they finally decided to go with the running game. At the second half, it started changing some things. A lot of people want to say Sirianni could be even potentially up for the coach of the year. I really don't agree with it on that one because he really hasn't done enough here and still made a lot of different mistakes. And Jalen Hurts, he looks good at times. I know a lot of Eagle fans even out there are still disappointed about moving on from Carson Wentz. They don't really like Jalen Hurts. They're still not on the Jalen Hurts train. I like a lot of special things he does with his legs, still making some of those bonehead throws here and there, but it looks like, at least for me, that he's trending in the right direction and maybe fixing some of those, but only time will tell on that. I still don't think they have enough here. I think I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this one. Despite
some of the Jalen Hurts' mistakes that he's made, he's still doing way better than Carson Wentz was with the Eagles. Listen, with his ability to run with his legs when he gets into trouble, he's been able to distribute the football to his young receivers and letting them make plays with it. Along with the Eagles' offense and their ability now to discover, we can run the ball. Let's do that and let's mix up some plays. Their offense has been impressive down the stretch. However, their defense, even despite it being on the rise and improving, I feel like coming up against Tampa Bay, this is going to be very challenging for them because Tampa Bay is going to try to run the ball down their throat. And we've mentioned before the season even started that the linebacking core was a weakness of theirs. Are they going to be able to overcome this, stop the run, and I know it sounds crazy, but make this team one-dimensional and have Tom Brady throw the football? Because I feel like the best positional grouping that the Eagles have on defense is their D-line. If they're able to get pressure on Brady, make him throw the ball a little too soon, make him move off his spot, make him throw on the run, they might have a chance to kind of disrupt enough of Tampa Bay's offense to stay in this game. Maybe they could squeak it out in the end. But lo and behold, I'm going to go with the more seasoned team. Tampa's won it last year. Tampa's back in the playoffs again. They have Tom Brady. They have more than enough weapons despite not having Godwin, despite not having Antonio Brown. I still think Tampa Bay pulls this off at home.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to believe in them here. All right, now let's look at the playoff picture again. We've got the AFC side. I'm going to go from the bottom up, I think, on this one, Joe. And I'm going to start with the Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City still, again, throughout the season, hasn't looked like the same Kansas City of old. The defense had played well past previous seasons and done fairly well what they're doing, getting that pass rush going. Chris Jones, again, Frank Clark being a good addition that they had. But this season, the defense has kind of been a little bit of their strength, but still made mistakes on their own. That offense seems like at times just sputtering. And again, for the credit that they give Patrick Mahomes, last week he was doing the whole bootleg out on the right and then sees a guy kind of tail in on an in route. It wants to throw across the field right into coverage. Almost another interception. Poor mistakes, things that a guy that's supposed to be next coming of the Christ of football, not making those types of bonehead mistakes and things that you're doing. He believes in so much of his ability, he's blinded to some of the things that he's looking at and thinking he has the ability to make it through that when he should have never thrown some of those balls. Yeah. So I think you're seeing some of those issues moving forward with these, and some of the other teams, again, going with that too deep safety look to try and play zone also on these guys to try and double cover Tyreek Hill here and there, trying to pressure, put some hands on Travis Kelce, try and stop him a little bit to slow him down. But again, this Kansas City team struggled at first, seems like they're getting it going here, but still not as powerful of an offense that we saw last season, to where I think if you saw it, they get behind early, but they had enough firepower. They just hit the switch and get it going. This team this year doesn't seem like they have that switch they could hit. So they need to really keep up with these teams or else they'll fall behind. But even all that, they're going to face a tough defense in the Steelers, but I think they have enough to get it done here at home.
It's the same offense. There's nothing different about this offensive team here. They still have the weapons. They still have that deep threat. But what's happening is that teams are changing the way they play them defensively, which is altering their offense. And in turn, they're not as explosive. They're not being allowed to just chuck the ball 50, 60 yards down the field for a touchdown anymore. Teams are challenging them to methodically work their way down the field, not allowing those big chunk plays to happen, where they're only on the field for 2 minutes and they already scored a touchdown. So defenses are changing the way Kansas City has to play in order to put points up on the board. And for some teams, they've been able to do it so well where it kind of disrupts what they want to do, and they're not able to put up as many points. Defensively for the Chiefs, they have improved halfway through the season because they went back to their roots. Steve Spagnuolo went back to blitzing instead of sitting back there in zone and getting picked apart. That's really all the change that they did. So I still feel like the Chiefs can be had in the air, for sure. They've been exposed numerous times this season. Their defense, if they can't get their pass rush there, you can expose them and attack through the air to get down the field and put points on the board. The Steelers, this is going to be the deciding factor for the Steelers. I don't give them a whole heck of a lot of shot to conquer the Chiefs in Kansas City, which is an extremely hard environment to play in. But the Steelers got a shot. They're in the playoffs. They're there. Does Big Ben have enough in him? The biggest thing for Big Ben is to not make mistakes. Do not turn the ball over in Kansas City because they will make you pay for it. I feel like the Steelers' defense, though, has a really good shot of disrupting this Chiefs offense. TJ Watt, as crazy as this guy is off the edge, right now I guess they're still waiting to hear back if it's official, if he gets that extra sack from last week to be able to beat the all-time sack record in the season. So still trying to figure out the official word on that. But nonetheless, TJ Watt is an animal off the edge. So unless Kansas City is going to swing over protection so much so that it's going to leave Ironhead Hayward to come up the middle and blast Patrick Mahomes, it remains to be seen. But this defense, I think, is up to the challenge against Kansas City, which will help this team be in the game. I think this is going to be a better game. I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means, but the Chiefs, I feel like, get the win in the end.
Yep, absolutely. Here now, moving on to the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Joe, what do you got in this one? The two teams, again, we brought about it earlier, said, again, that the Patriots just ran the daylights out of it. The first time they met, Buffalo came back, smacked them back in the mouth. Now we get to see them in the playoffs again, where it really matters. Loser goes home. Who do you got in this one?
So there's two different sides to the story on this one. So this season, the first time they met was extremely windy. There was no real possibility of throwing the ball down the field. It was so windy to the point where it actually made both teams run the ball basically the whole game. The Bills did attempt making a few 10 to 15-yard throws that kind of went a little wild, not as accurate. And in turn, it forced the Bills to be so one-dimensional that they just couldn't get it done. The Patriots, however, as good as the Bills' defense was, they are great against the pass. They are not phenomenal against the run. And the Patriots were able to expose that throughout that game to get the win. Then the second time they met, the Bills kind of outplayed the Patriots up and down the field, through the air, on the ground at times, did a couple of screen plays, and they were able to open up their offense, which is what they like to do, and attack this Patriots team. The Patriots defense didn't have an answer for it, and then the Bills ended up winning that game. If this is going to be weather, it's going to be decided by weather, I feel like. So if the Bills are able to do what they want, able to throw, able to run the ball at times, mix it up like they did in the second meeting, I feel like the Bills are going to win this game. Not only do they have the crowd behind them because they're home, but both these teams understand each other very, very well. So there's not going to be too many surprises for either one of them. But I got the Bills at home in the playoffs beating the Patriots.
All right, yeah. So, I mean, again, this is going to be tough. This is where, like you said, depending on weather, see how it goes, it's going to be a tougher matchup here. The Bills are at home, so I think that's good for them. But also the Patriots have played better, in a way. They don't play as good as they do at home this season for some reason. They just can't get it done. But you're looking at putting it on the shoulders of a rookie quarterback. How is he going to do? Because in that first meeting,
Starstruck much?
That first meeting, they just ran the ball a lot. You didn't ask him to do a whole lot. You've seen in a lot of these other games that they've been in, it just really dink and dunk kind of passes, not really stretching the field a whole lot, just doing, the Patriot way. Are they going to try and do that again? Are they going to try to utilize their running game, get it going for them? We'll see. I think it's going to be, depending on what defense will break first for these guys, weather I think will be an issue for both teams. I think I side on the Buffalo Bills aspect just because, again, they've been there before. Not that Bill Belichick hasn't, but the quarterback. You've got a rookie quarterback in this one. It's going to be tough to fight past this one, but I want to get a game back. I'm going to go for the New England Patriots on this one to upset the Buffalo Bills and send them packing. What a story it would be. And it would be crazy. And I'm sorry for all my Buffalo Squad Mafia guys out here, Lady Bills, for this. But, again, I'm just doing it to work a strategy here. So I'm going to go with the New England Patriots to upset the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. All right, next, Joe, you've got your Vegas Raiders. Your Vegas Raiders are in the playoffs, Joe. And they've got to face the Bengals. You got to be feeling pretty good about that one, though, too. I mean, not only the Bengals, yes, they're 10-7. Mm-hmm. I think if they had their starters in all the way in the last game, they should be 11-6. But 10-7 against your guys too have been playing with heart, and that's what I mean. You're talking about my team, who's not only had injuries and blah blah, but they still have their head coach and some other things, and a lot of those players come back not playing with anything. Your team has had been accused of all kinds of stuff. You've had their Henry Ruggs, one of their top picks, just gone because he went and killed somebody in a car accident. You have other multiple things, guys getting arrested. You had your head coach have to go walk away because of issues with emails and stuff like that, calling him flat out racist and all those other things. A lot of turmoil going on to where you had an interim head coach here. All kinds of things that could possibly go on for a franchise. And you guys are still playing tough, playing hard for your team, for your city, and you're in the playoffs here, but you got the hell of a team at the first draw here in the Bengals here. What do you got for this one here?
So despite all the problems that they had this season, which to me is like the ultimate trifecta of adversity for a football team, not having a head coach now, not having a couple of players because they're a bunch of morons and they feel like either threatening somebody with guns or driving around reckless and drunk. A lot has gone wrong for this team. Despite the injuries and COVID, just like any other team has faced, it's a big deal for Derek Carr. As much as this guy gets, he catches slack from and gets picked on from media experts, from their own Raider fans. Everybody wants to kind of write him off, get him out of here, trade him, get rid of him. We need a new quarterback. Well, there's a reason why Derek Carr is the Raiders quarterback, because he and his team have come together as a family and kind of pulled each other up and said, hey, listen, nobody's going to do this for us. We have to do this for each other. Nobody's believing in this team. Nobody thinks that we have the right stuff to even make the playoffs. Let's prove them all wrong. And that's what Derek Carr and the Raiders have done. The defense has gotten better every single week this season. They are one of the better pass defensive teams in the NFL. Not so good against the run, but they sure as hell proved that wrong when they faced the Colts. And honestly, if they can deliver that same kind of performance like last week against the Bengals and hold Joe Mixon to low yards and prevent them from getting in the end zone like that, running the ball, that gives the Raiders a shot. And unlike any other team in the first round, I'm actually elated that they're ended up playing the Bengals. Because, listen, they have some game tape when they faced the Bengals early in this season. They ended up losing that game, but only because there was like 2 or 3 turnovers where the Bengals kind of took advantage of that, and that's how the game ended. This is a completely different game. This is the playoffs. Anything can happen. So if the Raiders' defense keeps playing like they're playing, and Derek Carr in this offense, with Darren Waller now back in the lineup, with Zay Jones starting to make some plays himself, maybe they can get Deshaun Jackson more involved, which would kind of really open up this offense. And Josh Jacobs ran like the old Josh Jacobs of last week. So if they can keep getting everybody in tune, this is a big challenge for them, but I feel like they're up to it. And the Bengals, listen, the emergence of Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow playing at an amazing level already in his young career. This team is going to be a contender for the long term. So the Bengals are going to be a tough opponent. Raiders are right there. They both have a shot to win this game. I got the Raiders in this one.
All right, sticking with your team. I like it, Joe. I like what the Raiders have been doing. Again, I had a feeling maybe they could do it last week again because you know what? That new stadium, too, that just brings a whole nother aura to it. And I feel like the players really step up when they play there. I think they just play their best when they're at home. Unfortunately, this week they're not going to be playing there. But as you know, like everybody else knows, Raiders fans travel, baby. They go. And they even put out, I think the Bengals put out a presser that saying, hey, listen, we're upping the prices right now because we got to try and limit some of these Raiders fans buying these season tickets. You do not sell any more of your tickets to the Raiders. We need to make this a home game. Well, unfortunately, there's going to be, for the Bengals, a lot of Raiders in this stadium. I saw it when we went and saw the Giants play. There was a lot of noise coming out of for the Raiders in that game. I mean, so it was 50-50. If not, there were more Raiders fans there than Giants fans. It was sickening. It was crazy. And the way these guys take over stadiums, it's nuts. So it's going to be a good game. I love the playoff atmosphere in this whole thing. I love it all together. I like a lot of these games where the playoff atmosphere is going to be. I really want to side with your Raiders, Joe. I really do. But I'm looking at even the competition that some of these that the Bengals have faced, and they've really put it to a lot of these guys. I think this is going to be see how your defense handles this offense, and if they can stop Jamar Chase and stop the run, like you said, where they had problems in stopping the run early on in the season, but then really nipped it down, and they really did a lot last week too as well. I mean, the Raiders have a chance in this one. But just to be different again, I'm going to go with the Bengals on this one just to try and – I'm going to try and make it up this week here and really make a push here. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here. Either way, I'm excited to watch it. It's going to be exciting. If your Raiders win, I'm excited for you too as well, my friend. So cause it's great because if the Giants were in the playoffs, I know you'd be excited for me, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited for you and your team, and let's see how far these guys can make it. Do it for Gruden, do it for Madden, do it for whatever, yourselves, people that put you down, everything else, all the adversity you've gone through. Let's see it, baby. But right now I'm trying to come back and win, so I'm not drinking this thing at the end. So we'll see. But that's it. That's our show for tonight, everybody.
Real quick,
What's up?
Before we go, Mike Tackett did give me his picks.
Oh, yeah, we got to go through the picks here.
He said he picked the Bengals.
He picked the Bengals.
Against the Raiders.
Okay.
He picked the Buffalo Bills against the Patriots. He picked Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Against the Eagles. He picked the Dallas Cowboys against the Niners. He picked Kansas City. He said, a.k.a. sorry, Ben.
Okay.
And then he picked the Cardinals.
And the Cards. There you go. So a little bit different here. He went Cowboys. We didn't go Cowboys at all. Like, I just couldn't bring myself to do it because even I'm looking at that fact, if I do bring and pick the Cowboys and they end up losing, then I'm like, damn it, why did they do this? They did it to me one other time when I tried to be different, and they just screw me over because that's just what Cowboys do. I hate them. They hate me.
That's just
it's just the way it is. It's the way it is. Go home early, sleep on your sleep number bed, Dak Prescott. We don't want to see you there anymore. All right? See you later. Bye-bye. All right. We are see you later, too, in this one, though. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Podcasts for you guys listening to us tomorrow, whenever you guys get a chance to. We really appreciate you guys. Spotify out there. Make sure you give us a rating. And also, check it out. Come check out our other formats, too. We are on YouTube. We're on Facebook. Just Football on the No Show. Search it up right there. On Twitter, so you can get some more updates and stuff like that.
We're on
always
Twitch.
posting stuff. And we're on Twitch as well, too. That's right. Twitchers out there. Help us grow there and you get started with an affiliate. Become an affiliate there. We need some people to just watch along with us and interact there. We really appreciate it there, too. We're trying to grow as a team, so really appreciate it. And playoffs, baby. It's moving forward, getting closer to that big game, and we're going to bring you guys a lot more stuff, too, as well on the horizon. So check it out, and we can't wait for it, and we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.